Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the NAJ, and I am here with my group of friends, starting with Panda. Welcome on in.
Up.
And we got Mark Rodriguez.
Dave Rodriguez here.
I'm gonna pass it on to you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm known as Doopy Chan or Wendy or Ninja Doopy, and call me whatever you want, as long as it's a nice name.
And we're celebrating with Mimosa today.
Then we got Doc
Hey, Drew,
and
baby.
Drew.
You already know who I am.
Yeah, from all of our eating channels, and this is going on the NAJ Eats channel for the NAJcast and other platforms for podcasting. And we wanted to get this group together to talk about. Well, we're all nerds here. Let's be honest, and we all know that there's a bunch of you out there that are as well. So wanted to talk about different just interests. So right now we're just going to start off with who we are, a little bit about ourselves, what we like to do in our free time, stuff like that. So you all know me. I'm Poke. That we do the NAJ Eats with Drew here, and obviously I like to eat. That's clear by now. But D&D, board games are my two biggest things. I also play video games a whole lot. Play Magic here and there when I can. But yeah, Panda. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Panda. Most of you probably don't know me at all. I typically stream on Twitch and just hang out.
All right, Panda, pass it on to someone. We'll popcorn here. Huh? Everybody but me and you. She chose Doc.
All right. Right, well, my name's Doc. Again, yeah, as he said, a big nerd. Play D&D, watch movies, play video games. It's pretty much the general gist of it.
And yeah, this is Mark Rodriguez here. Both me and Jupes, we like video games. We follow wrestling, mostly AEW for better, for worse nowadays. Yep. And also, for me, I'm more of a fighting game and like beat 'em up game type and retro gamer. Jupes is more into like Final Fantasy.
And retro stuff, and also retro games.
Yep.
And manga.
Okay, there we go on manga. And we're also big fans of comic books, so that's gonna come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And we got our channel, Video Game Masters '09. That's mostly for our video game reviews, movie reviews, and whatnot. And we also got Mark's Unboxing Zone, which is us unboxing different things or showing off anime figures and things like that. So it's pretty cool.
Uh, so I want to start out before my intro and saying that I got a little bit of lag on my end because I have what I like to call a toaster. My laptop has about as much processing power as your toaster does in your kitchen. So, with that said, I like video games. I like board games. Maybe not as much as Poke over there. But I like Dungeons and Dragons a little bit. I like comic books. I like anime. I like reading. I like a lot of food. Like a lot of food. You guys probably know me from eating food. Lots of it, all the time.
Yep. So we're basically gonna have a countdown. That was kind of 10. We're gonna have 9 other topics to talk about today. One of them just kind of more of what we're excited to see. And that's how we're going to do this podcast. Is going to be 10 items that we're going to talk about. One of them is just kind of catching up with us. Maybe at one point there's going to be questions in the comments or something that we're going to comment about or something like that. And then the last one's usually going to end up with something that we're looking forward to. But for now, let's go ahead and get into one of our topics. And Let's see here. I think we're going to start in this order, and we're just going to go from there. So, you know what? I wanted this discussion to be number one, just because I'm curious about it. So we're going to start with Pokemon for this one. We're going to start with the Pokeathlon Dome, and we're going to let our host for that portion take over, Mr. Drew. So go ahead and whatever you want to talk about
Well,
for that.
so we had a conversation a little while back about how to start a podcast about things that we enjoy. And we're like brainstorming ideas, and Poke over there was like, hey, what if we talk about games? And I'm like, well, a lot of people don't really know this about me, but I'm very particular about the kind of games that I like. And Poke was like, well, we can always do Pokemon. I know you like Pokemon. And I'm like, sure. What topic of Pokemon do you want to talk about? I could talk about that all day. And so we got on the topic of features that are specific to games of Pokemon. Like you see them once, you never see them again. One of the best ones that I've seen is the Pokeathlon Dome. That was found in the Johto region, and it was in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and the original Gold and Silver games for Pokemon. It was a nice spin on the classic Pokemon, because in Pokemon you have like your 1v1 battling, and you make your stats higher with EVs and IVs and training them and giving them abilities and items, right? Everybody knows this. Everybody's played Pokemon. But Pokeathlon Dome had a whole subgenre of game inside of it. It gave you all new stats such as power and stamina. These stats can go up and down based on what kind of Pokemon you are, as well as what their capabilities are. So for instance, let's just say like an Onix, for example. An Onix is going to have more innate power than an Azurill, right? And so Onix's max stat for that is going to be like way higher than an Azurill. With that said, you can make these stats better through an in-game mechanic that was based around apricots, which before the Pokeathlon Dome, apricots don't really do much. You kind of collect a bunch of these and you're like, what do I do with these? I can turn these into Pokeballs, kind of, sort of, with Kurt sometimes. It takes a little while to do that. It takes a whole day in real life for them to generate. But with the apricots, you could blend them with an apple blender to make a special like sauce for your Pokemon to drink. And when they drink this, it boosts their stat for power, speed, or stamina. And what you would do with this Pokeathlon Dome with that is you would compete in like a marathon. You would do like hurdle dash or snow throw, where you're like racing other Pokemon or smashing blocks or trying to get the highest jump. And snow throw was one of my favorites because it was literally a snowball fight, you know. You would make massive snowballs and chuck them at your friends. Fun times. There were so many different events, and each event would give you points based on how well you did. And if you had more points than your opponent at the end, you would like beat that competition. There were also like mini games inside this mini game, which is why I find it awesome. Where like if you did 1,000 jumps, you would get a trophy and a spot in the Hall of Fame. Or if you did the lamp jump 72 times, you would get a trophy and end up in the Hall of Fame for that too. The reason why I like this so much, and the reason why I'm so passionate about Pokeathlon Dome, it's a whole game inside the game, you know. But yeah, that's the topic that I wanted to cover for Pokeathlon Dome.
I do remember, if I remember correctly, again, that was a while ago, but I do remember that there was a vending machine where you could just buy like water and lemonade and stuff. But more importantly, at the Pokeathlon Dome, every day there was different there's like a different prize counter, and that's actually where you could get a lot of like evolution stones and stuff, right?
Yeah, if I remember
Yep.
right, yeah.
So
And it changed
back
daily
in the
too.
day,
Like one day's
it
prizes
wasn't
may not be
so
there for
easy
tomorrow.
to get. Right, they changed daily. Back in the day, it wasn't so easy to get the evolution items. Like you couldn't just buy them or trade them or whatever. Like they were like one time in the game, maybe twice. But this Pokeathlon Dome allowed you to buy them with the Pokeathlon points that you won. You know, which was nice because it helped you with the main game as well.
I forget what game was that specifically in. I know you said Johto region, but
Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Gold, yes, gold and silver, and then heart gold.
And Soul Silver.
Yep.
did you play those, babe, or was that part of the series that you weren't part of?
What console were
Yes.
those on? Were they already like this? They're for the
No,
Switch
Game
ones,
Boy.
right?
Oh no, yes, Game Boy Color for Gold and Silver, and the DS for Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
And
The thing is, so it was like, I guess, a random generator. So every day you played a game, like you go back there and the slot machine was a different item.
Yeah,
That's what
something like
Pulp was
that.
referring.
It was something like that. I'm trying to remember because it's been so long.
Yes.
My Pokemon
Yeah. It
Wait,
rotated.
I know you're lagging.
It rotated based on the day, and Saturdays and Sundays you had surprises.
Oh yeah, because the DS had like an internal clock or something. I remember.
Yeah, and it's also sort of like the other part of that game. Well, for Heart Gold and Soul Silver anyway, because there's the other thing where you could, fight a certain gym leader. There was in like that area or whatever, but they would only appear on a certain day or something, and or a certain time in a certain part of the day, and then you can like rebattle them, and they were from like the Kanto region. Gym leaders. So I always thought that was
You could like call them, and when you called them, it triggered another fight with them, and they would have stronger Pokemon later on. Heart Gold and Soul Silver had a lot of cool things like that. Yeah.
I loved that game. I really hate the fact it got lost. Oh.
And Panda, what were you saying?
Most of my Pokemon experience comes from watching the show. I didn't have the games until very recently.
Whenever I bought them recently, or was it
Yes.
before that? Yeah.
I hadn't had the games until that point.
So Panda's just getting into the video game series of it, but the show, I like the original show. I don't know what's happened since then, because I heard that some of the adventures were not so great after the original, but yeah.
They were okay.
Maybe that's something we'll have to discuss in the future too, is the Pokemon show, but I like the first one. Well, I like the one, there was a point where they changed the look of Ash, and then I was like, nope, I'm kind of done from this point.
That was a Alola. Yeah, Alola, they kind of made it more for kids, which is fine because that's kind of what they were about, was small kids. But in Alola, they changed the look of the anime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doc,
I kind of go with the game too. So
Have you ever played the Pokemon games?
Nope, not at all.
None of
really.
them.
The only ones I've ever had were just Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Black and White. I just forgot which one of the two I got, either black or white. Those are like the only two I've ever actually owned and played.
see, I had
Those are pretty good ones too.
I've only played Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Green, Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Stadium 2, Pokemon Yellow. I didn't care for Ruby and Sapphire, so I didn't pay attention. I didn't care for Diamond and Pearl. I didn't pay attention. Heart Gold is what brought me back into the game. Then I brought me back to playing the games because I just loved it so much. Pokemon Black I had because I loved the story for Black. It was so different and awesome.
Black was so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I had Pokemon Black 2.
I've played almost
Oh,
I've played almost all of the games. Like I've been collecting them over the years. I get one from each generation. perhaps maybe at another one of these podcasts, we'll talk about my love for Pokemon Ranger.
And then you said, Doc, you didn't get to play any of the games?
Not really. Yeah, growing up, I would see people who had like have the Pokemon cards. Like I watched the show like in the early 2000s, but that was about it. The only time I really ever played a Pokemon game was really when like Pokemon Go first came out. When
Oh,
everyone
Pokemon.
when everyone in the world decided like, oh hey, this is cool, and like everyone actually like went outside, went out for walks, and then like had their own like the factions in between them. But even after a while, I was just like, it's not for me.
No.
But,
See,
I mean,
that's a whole discussion, but go ahead.
yeah, no, like, but like, honestly, that was pretty much it. Like, granted, like, from watching the
That's
show, I know like
Oh,
a few of
that's
them.
a whole other piece.
Yeah, but yeah, for watching a show, like, I know a good chunk of them. Um, and I think anything past first generation, I'm probably completely clueless over, just full over the head.
Fair
Um,
enough. Yeah, Pokemon Go is not my... I know this is going to be controversial, but that's okay. That's what podcasts are for. Pokemon Go to me is not... It's okay. It's not great. It's just catching Pokemon, which is cool
no.
to a point. But, I mean, I have it on my phone, but that doesn't mean I use it.
It was all right. It was not very, it was not very good for like what the franchise has like that have been very and zoomed into Pokemon that have watched the anime or the manga or the games, the Coliseum series. It was another branch. I think the branch was successful. I didn't like it though. Pokemon Go is just not quite there for me, but it helps me get Furfrou forms. Haha.
I think Pokemon Go, like for me personally, it's just more like I can go weeks and weeks and weeks without playing, and then maybe I just say, oh, I'm just picking up to play for a little bit again, just have some, because I'm like bored. Oh, I'm sitting in the doctor's office. Oh, a Pokestop, like that.
Yeah.
I'm not as serious about it as the
Then the
group
Pokestop.
message. Yeah, or a gym is nearby, but there is a group that I'm a part of. They are serious about this game. I mean, they still play to this day. They all meet up. It's like a caravan because you can't really walk to so many places around here. They get in their cars. They go drive around to the different places, before the COVID stuff. They all get in their cars and be driving around. Okay, we're meeting at the such and such area. Come on, everybody, let's go. We got a battle going. We got a gym here. We got to take it out. It's like, okay, but I did join a few
I
times.
had a couple of people that were like that too.
Yeah, like I feel like that's the only way you have to play is that you have to have like a group of like at least a decent sized group of friends who are like really into it. You go out to the events that actually go do it. And also I think what helps is like if you're in an area that has a lot of like traction and like Pokestops and stuff like that, because the area that I'm in, like you have to kind of go out of your way to go
Yeah.
to an area that has like, okay, this is actually like worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good area, then yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, cool. Like there's another Caterpie. Great.
Panda, I know you have strong feelings about Pokemon Go. I know that's not really the topic, but
I
go
I
ahead.
I would still be playing to this day, except our town has no Pokestops, no gyms, nothing. Like
Oof.
where I used to live right on top of a gym, a Pokestop, and a nest to the point where I didn't even have to leave my house.
Well, must be nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like Doc said, like I completely understand you do have to have a group, like 100%. Because if you don't have a group, then
Yeah, it's like what's
it's
the point?
not gonna work.
Yeah.
Also, does
The-
it's recording.
The
Okay.
good thing about where I live is there's a bunch of like Pokestops and gyms like right around where I live in like a 5-block radius. There's maybe
yes.
4
I
gyms and
noticed.
like 30.
I noticed while I was there.
Most people don't have that.
Hmm.
Alrighty.
But yeah, Pokemon Go was not a big thing.
I
At
would
this
love
point,
I've been level 40 for like the past 5 years or something. I'm still this close to level 41. I'll get there someday.
At this point, I think we're going to transfer it over to Mark Rodriguez here for our comic book section. I'll let you take the reins.
All right, so this time we've got a bit of an ongoing story that hasn't have a conclusion yet because it's still, there's no more issues. One thing that we like about comic books is that there's so many big changes and things because, when you watch TV, movies and stuff, they're always kind of at the beginning, But comics, since it's kind of a long, ongoing story, there's always changes and things. So I was curious about Batman. I haven't really read Batman comics in a long time, the modern day ones. I'm kind of curious what's going on now. So apparently, somehow Bruce Wayne lost a mansion, and Vandal Savage bought it and owns it. And Alfred died in a previous storyline against Bane. And what was surprising the most, though, is that it's been going on for a couple of years. Usually in the comics, some of these, major characters die, but come back later. As of right now, Alfred is still dead. So I'm like, okay. And it actually comes to play into this story right now. So in the recent issues, Batman has this secret extra identity that he backed up in himself, well, I guess during his time training to become Batman back in the day. And this personality is called NAJ, and it's supposed to represent, I guess, the more cold, calculating, I guess, the true Batman that will do whatever it takes to solve crime, no matter what, no matter who you sacrifice and stuff like that. So Batman had to fight, internally with this personality. And what happens in the story now is that Batman actually had, I don't know if you guys heard of the infamous Tower of Babel. I don't know. Babel.
Babel.
Thank you. There's a story that was called Tower of Babel, where it was revealed that Batman had these secret contingency plans to take down each members of the Justice League if they ever go bad. But what happened is they never elaborated about, what's Batman's, contingency plan? So we find out this plan was this robot named Failsafe that would activate and go after Batman. And basically what happens is if Batman ever commits a murder, that robot will activate and go after him and everything. And what happened is that in a recent storyline, it all ties together here, they framed Batman for killing the Penguin. And what happened is in cases that Batman gets framed for murder, Alfred was the only one that had the codes or whatever to deactivate the robot, false alarm, he was framed, whatever. But as I said before, Alfred is dead now. So when this happened, failsafe activated.
Cliffhanger! Cliffhanger!
Yeah.
Alfred is still dead.
What happened is that failsafe not only activated but encountered Batman. I guess between him and his other personality, they determined that NAJ should be the real Batman, and Bruce Wayne himself is just not necessary anymore. So somehow, which I don't understand, but that's how comic books work, Batman downloaded that personality into the robot.
Yeah.
So now Failsafe thinks he's the real Batman, and he locked up Bruce Wayne and the Joker in Blackgate Prison. Joker knows he's Bruce Wayne, but for Bruce's benefit, he still has like wrap bandages or something, so the rest of the inmates don't know who he is or whatever. And that's what gets us here. So the current storyline that we're checking out is called Dark Prisons. And the first issue kind of dealt with just the whole situation I'm telling you, kind of get it explained for new readers, and how Batman escaped the prison. Because all the Arkham villains are being captured and brought to Blackgate in hopes to forcibly rehabilitate them. So while one of the bad guys named Punchline, she's like the Joker's current girlfriend now, Punchline caused a disturbance, and this is how Bruce Wayne managed to escape. And then, the second issue kind of elaborates more about that. The main thing is, of course, Failsafe is a robot, so obviously he's like connected to the internet, and he knows fucking literally everything. So Bruce Wayne is literally on his own. He has zero way to contact any friend, family, anyone, because if Failsafe finds out, he'll take him out. He'll kill his friends, his family, whatever. And on top of that, he convinced Damian Wayne, the current Robin, to join him because since he has all of Bruce's memories, he was able to convince him of like, oh, when I raised you and junk like that. So
I read to you when you were a youngin.
Yeah,
Pretty much how he got him.
Yeah, so Damien knows about it. And finally, the most recent issue deals with, again, Bruce Wayne on the run on his own. But now, what's her name? Amanda Waller is getting involved. And the news is getting involved because they see this robot Batman. Robot Batman convinced a lot of people that it's Bruce Wayne's consciousness in the robot. The Bat family is having doubts. And yeah, it's interesting. And on top of it all, the big cliffhanger now is that he has an army of Amazo robots that are all designed to go after everyone and stuff.
Oh yeah. Because I was like, what the? When I was reading.
Yeah, so that's big shit coming up. And not only that, but he's working. This robot Failsafe is working alongside a guy named what's his name, Comte or something like that. The psychiatrist guy.
Yeah, I don't remember his name though.
Yeah, of course, something like that. Those are psychiatrist guy that was one of Batman's mentors back in the day. Because you know how Bruce Wayne went all over the world to train versus different people.
Oh yeah, and I was
like, this guy told him to be a expert martial artist. This guy told him to be an expert escape artist, that kind of stuff. So this guy went a lot into his mind and everything, and that's how he helped him form that separate personality and to begin with.
And I remember I was saying I don't trust this guy.
Yeah. So this guy is running the prison while Failsafe is going out capturing criminals or whatever. He has his own evil plans, and he wants to make some kind of like brainwashing or lobotomizing machine or something. He wants to forcibly make all the bad guys, I guess, good now. And they're starting off with the Riddler, so we'll see what happens next. And my big question is, how are his goals going to conflict with Failsafe's goals, and what's Batman going to do? What's going on now? Because Amanda Waller's getting involved. Of course, you got her Suicide Squad, all that stuff. So that's pretty interesting. And the next issue should be coming out either this week or next week, because now we're in the month of June, so it should be coming out soon. And so just quick general thoughts, Troops. Any other?
I'm still so confused with how he downloaded his feelings, thoughts, memories into Failsafe. I mean, that is some really high-tech stuff up there, But yeah, but I think the main thing I like is how you have the whole Bat family together. You have Batgirl, you have Nightwing, you have Tim Drake, you have Jason Todd, you have all of them together trying to figure out what do we do about Failsafe, what do we do about Bruce, and all that other stuff. And then got Damian, he's hanging with Bruce because he thinks it's his dad. And I was like, oh, poor delusional kid. And then of course I'm sorry. It's just the whole story it's just so crazy. I mean, Batman's cray-cray. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So any thoughts on all these crazy revelations, guys?
That's just insane. Like, I haven't read a comic book in I don't know how long, but I'm a huge fan of the Batman universe in general. And I knew he had the whole fail-safe for like the Justice League and all that. And I knew, it was always hinted to that he had like a fail-safe even for himself, but no one knew what it was except him and apparently Alfred. So when that coming to light, that's insane. It's kind of confusing how he would have downloaded. I'm kind of what's Jupes on that. Like the Batman universe is pretty realistic. Like, there's a couple things that are like, okay, that doesn't make too much sense for real life. But for the most part, I would say it's pretty realistic. So downloading all of that into a robot seems stretchy.
Yes.
Like, it makes it to a stretch there, but, it's still pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, because that's the thing, because how people in the real world have like split personality problems and stuff. Like, how do you download? Is that so much download the personality? Because that's science fiction stuff. My question is, how do you like get out of your head and into the robot? That's what I mean. Because in Batman's case right now Bruce has a bit more leeway, because in the past he had to limit his thinking because everything he knows, this personality knows. Now that the personality's out of his head, he's free to think freely. The bad thing is he has to now act in ways that the other him can't predict. Because Batman always has a backup plan, type of a backup plan. Now he's gonna need some super backup plans that his other self cannot predict. You know what I mean? But it's
This
so
feels like
weird.
that.
It's like imagine doing that to Two-Face. Just get Two-Face's other personality to a robot or something, and then Harvey Dent could just live his life like back to normal.
Yeah, he'd be a
Oh my
DA
gosh,
again.
he could fix Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be a DA again. Oh, and something else with the. Oh yeah, and because of all this stuff that's going on, Bruce is, he's kind of off the grid, so he can try to figure out what to do, and hope that failsafe doesn't come out. Find him, or because you don't want to contact anyone with you scared. Like Mark was saying, failsafe will go after anyone around him, but of course, that's not going to happen. He's going to have someone help him, even if he's trying not to be helped.
Mhm.
But failsafe even went after, showing all the villains he had gone after. He even went after Harley Quinn. Yeah, right?
Yeah, and even though Harley Quinn is currently in the comics slightly reformed, more of an anti-hero type stuff, and she's like, yo, what gives? I'm a good guy now. I'm practically a member of the Bat Family by now. And Failsafe is like, we don't care, oh, this does not erase your previous crimes and murders. You're coming with me and all that. So
Yeah.
so it's like, damn,
And then we got a circular penguin joke. All of that is like
yeah. But we'll leave it any
Makes you wonder if the failsafe is the better Batman.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He sees himself as the better Batman and as the true Batman. The Batman that doesn't hesitate and all that.
Mm-hmm. This is the weird series. This one's just weird, man.
Yeah, I know. But I can't wait to see the next issue. It does have me interested. Some comics you're like, this stuff is like, oh, come on. But this one's like, I want to see what happens, man. I want to see how he gets out of this.
Yeah, it's just
I might have to
like-
get that one.
Comics have always amazed me because I've never growing up I had I had a Batman comic, I had a Spider-Man comic. I don't even know where they are I don't even know where they are now. But I never really got back into it because it's just so intimidating because there's so many stories and
Agreed.
outlines. It's kind of to the point I'm like, are you just rehashing are we just rehashing old stories and just tweaking it a little bit? It's just it was just something I never really fully got into because because of the fact that it's just paralysis by analysis. That there's so many stories and so many outlets you can go, what's canon, what's not. It's just mind-boggling me. Although going to the having Batman having contingencies for everything, because as you mentioned, he had contingency plans for all of the Justice League members. I think in either the Justice League animated series or the other one that they did, Unlimited, I think, or Batman and Superman were kind of talking. It was an episode where all the Justice League are being attacked, and they're getting their butts handed them, and so Batman then figures it out, oh, someone got into my network of on how to take care of it all, and so when him and Superman were talking, Batman mentions yeah, I have a plan on how to neutralize every single member of the Justice League. And Superman asks, well, what about you? And he's like, I have the Justice League to take care of me. So it's just kind of interesting that at least with that one, it's going into oh, it's a robot and this, that, and the other. And comics have always just been insane to me. Although going back to the whole the robot activates when Batman commits a murder. Is it as soon as he commits the murder, or is it when it hits the media?
It's hard to say because it's
not clear, honestly.
It was in some super duper hidden part of the Batcave or something. I guess. I mean, it'll have to make sense, like you said, because it'll have to be when the media and all that stuff comes out, because it'll be wired to the grid, the internet, whatever, something like that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, he's killed hundreds of people, whether directly or indirectly. He might not have shot him in the head, but he's dropped people off buildings. He's thrown them into walls and poles. People are heavily disabled at the very least.
Yeah. And but it does answer the question though, because comics, Batman's probably been framed for murder who knows how many times or whatever. So So I guess that was the protocol.
Hey, Batman Returns.
Yeah, that was the protocol of having Alfred do it. It's
That would be
just,
my question there with the. That would be my question there. Like, if it's based on whether or not he killed somebody, he didn't actually kill somebody. If I remember your retelling right, it
yeah.
was just that the media thought he did. In
Yeah,
which
they thought they
case,
killed the
why would
Penguin.
that
I
not have
think the-
activated like centuries ago?
Yeah. Yeah, the Joker gave the Penguin some kind of something that made him like, heart stop or whatever, make the media think that he was dead. And that's what started like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in like a state that was near death in their reality, and
Yeah,
that's what triggered
but
the
enough
failsafe
to make the
because-
world think that he was legit
Yeah.
dead, to report it. So I guess it is kind of like what Doc said. It would have to be like when the media would catch up to it, because the robot would be wired to all that, I guess, dormant.
Unless
Because otherwise, how would he know? How would he just...
his Bruce Wayne, the Batman tingling sense be going off. Batman killing somebody,
Right.
tingling sense going off.
Right, exactly. He's
And I
only
also
mostly
would say-
dead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I also agree with
Right.
Doc too about the thing about collecting comic books and stuff. See, I didn't grow up really with them either. I know my father had some growing up. He liked his comic books and stuff, but when I was interested in them myself, it is intimidating because there are like so many. There's so many issues, so
Thousands.
many iterations, so many versions. different
Where do you
universes.
start?
Yeah, that's the problem.
You don't just
Yeah,
pick one.
Is this the first one in this like storyline, or is this like the 8th one? I don't know.
Yeah, and then like there's the series where it's like sometimes like it'll say like book 1 or like part 1, but it's actually in the middle of something that's just like
Right.
this is the next chapter of the whole series. It's like
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
but
part
this
1
one-
of episode 8, basically.
Yeah, because this one basically starts off with Batman and Joker in prison. But like there's like this whole other thing, who knows, their 10-part story when they first fought Failsafe, when Failsafe first downloaded the personality into himself. This is like a new story, but still continues the ongoing, I guess, Failsafe saga. So I just didn't want to bother, reading all that. This was like the most recent one that was out at the time, so I wanted to get a jumping point to get back into Batman, but I'm obviously missing like the first part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the only downside about comic books, and especially with DC and Marvel stuff. So that I can't even really, I don't really bother with in general. I'd rather just try some kind of an indie series or some other series, some more original, and just try to read from there because it's easier to keep up with. Like that Geiger series I just started reading. So
Yeah. And then like
And
Alfred didn't
Geiger.
even die in this issue. Alfred died a couple of years ago. But if you don't read the comics, you're like, wait, Alfred's dead? Huh? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Hard story, like,
mm,
yeah.
and,
So just to kind of conclude my section here, I want to point out that so Dark Prison starts out with Batman issue 145, continues out with 146, and of course the 8th issue as of right now is 147, with 148 coming out either this week or next week. So you guys if you're interested, check it out. And yeah, pretty interesting story so far. And we'll see how Bruce Wayne gets out of this one, how Bruce Wayne can beat himself,
Right.
and Panda wanted to say something as well. Would you want to add?
Well, not only is there because I've never read any comics because I've always been intimidated about, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to read. I don't know, what book starts where. And then there's also the many comic books that like kind of interact with each other. Like this series and this series has a crossover book and this series has a crossover book. And if you don't read the crossover book, you don't know what's happening in the next book. And it's like this web of comic books, and I have no idea where to start.
I agree with Panda on that one.
Yep, same. And like I felt that even when CW was doing the whole Arrowverse, let's start off with Green Arrow. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm liking this. This is cool. Flash came out. Okay, this is interesting. All right, Supergirl. Okay, adding a little bit more. DC Legends of Tomorrow. Okay, this is getting a lot. Massive crossover episodes, multi-episodes, and each episode is on like each different series. So one episode is on the Arrow one, another one's on Flash, another one's on Supergirl. And you're like, there's so much. I don't know where to watch all these.
Wait, didn't they also do the Infinite Crisis storyline too or something?
Probably.
Black Lightning and
Yeah.
Probably,
yeah,
yeah.
because
I'm sure they did.
I started trying to watch that and I was like, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm done. I can't.
So much.
It was too much. And I was regularly watching a couple of those shows, but I was like, you know, I can't do this. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
No, like honestly, like, after the first time they did the whole like, oh, we're doing crossovers for these series, I just kind of stopped after that. Partly just because it was kind of a little confusing, but also it just life kind of took over. So I was like, you know what, this is a good point to kind of stop. But I'm good here.
To be one of those people that just has stacks and stacks and stacks of these comic books, and like you could just like read the whole way down.
Like, oh my god, like some I'm sure it's probably the same for you guys, but there's a few comic book stores over here where as soon as you walk in, I mean, it is just like tables just like covered from it like centimeter to centimeter filled with like
Yeah.
file holders filled with comic books
Yeah,
all on the
long
floor,
boxes.
all on the walls. I'm like, how in the world, like, how do you organize this as well? Like, that is, oh my god.
I like those because that's where I find my back issues and stuff. I recently started to collect the late like early 2000s Power Girl series. So whenever I go to a new comic book store, I check out their long boxes to see if they got any and everything. Well, I mean, Drew knows whenever we go to the free comic book day, we check out the long boxes for some of the older stuff.
Yeah, we used to have two different card shops. One's a smaller one, but it has more of the newer stuff, and the other one has more of the classic stuff, but they have boxes and boxes and boxes.
They just be like that. Yeah, like pretty much anytime I go to the comic book store now, I'll like peruse, but I'm not going to get anything. If there's dice, I'm going there.
Yeah.
Alrighty. On that note, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the next topic. Make sure this train keeps it rolling. Or should I say the fire truck keeps it rolling? Because the next topic we're going to talk about is board games. And I'm going to pull out one of my favorite board games, or I wouldn't say favorite, but it's up there. I like it. And that's Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Basically, you play as a firefighter who's going into this house to rescue some, what they call in the game, victims. The designer is Kevin Lansing, and it's published by Indie Boards and Cards. Basically, the whole point of the game, it's a very long setup. Here's one side of the board, and then here's the other side of the board. This one has a smaller hallway in it, so fires and stuff break out, as you can see by this little thing here. Usually they start out as smoke, and then they turn into fires. There's explosions that happen, just like in a real fire. And then you have to find these little tokens. And these are the victims. Or, like, for instance, you could save this kid. Or sometimes you go to check on a victim, and it was just a false alarm. It was just an alarm clock going off, a radio going off. But your whole goal is to save 7 people before either the building collapses or the fire takes a couple of victims. The game very specifically says that it does not take the victims, just some other firefighter rescued them, but your goal is to rescue 7 of them. And you even have variable player powers with different firefighters. Some of them have different things that they can do and different, and you know what the coolest thing is? There's like these little fire trucks that can get a little hose and spray some areas. You can save the victims by putting them on an ambulance. And then you get these cool, like normally they're just like little tiny little meeples, but like they have full, I haven't painted this yet. I plan on doing it at one point, but I wanted to talk about this game because a lot of people that I've seen review this game or talk about it is like 6 years ago or more. And that's because like it came out in 2011 or 2011. So it came out a long time ago, but I love it. I play it all the time. All you Pandemic lovers out there, I'm sorry. I like this a little bit more than Pandemic. Pandemic is a great game, but I like this one a little bit more. My wife will disagree with me heavily on that.
You're a heretic.
I got 2 questions, Mr. Pope.
What's that?
First of all, it's like a multiplayer game, right? Like up to what, like 2 players, 4 players?
I believe it's 4 players. Let me double check. Yeah, 2 to 6 players actually.
We've done more than 2. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done more than 2 before.
Is it like
Yeah,
the
up
winner
to
is
6.
whoever gets the most victims, or?
No, it's cooperative. So it's everybody
It's
loses
co-op,
or everybody
yeah.
wins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so either the house is completely taken by fire, too many victims are left in the house, or you win is basically the 3 ways.
Okay, then the second question is, it's like, I guess you guys roll the die or something and see how many paces you walk or as you go into the house? Or?
It's based on an action point system. So like this guy, I'll show you. Hey, it says 4 AP, so 4 action points. Like 1 movement is an action point. Putting out a fire into smoke is 1 action point. If you want to completely remove a fire, that's 2 action points, 1 for the smoke, 1 for the fire. But it's an action point system. So a movement is an action point. Putting out a fire is an action point.
So you're drawing out cards, right?
Now I was gonna wonder. So how do you earn the action points or build them?
Every round. So like if it's my turn, I'll have 4 action points. Then the next person might have 3. Like for instance, I'll show you. This person has 3. And then this person has 4. So everybody takes a turn. So it's like, say the 6 of us are playing. Yeah, I did that math right. Say the 6 of us are playing, and I have this person, so I'll get 4 action points on my turn. And then Droopy, say you're playing this person, you get 3 on your turn. And then the next time it comes to our turn, that's how many more action points we get.
Okay.
But at the end of everybody's turn, a new fire breaks out.
Good gosh.
So, and if a fire lands on a fire, instead of a
And the
fire
fires
breaking out,
that are there spread.
an explosion breaks out, which is so much fun. And also, if you play the advanced game, there's hazardous material, and if the fire lands on a hazardous material, that also explodes. So,
So is that player just taken out for the rest of the game, or?
so if the firefighters ever hit with fire, they're knocked unconscious and they wake up in the ambulance, and then they can take their turn whenever it's their turn. But if it's a victim, like one of those question mark tokens, they're just removed from the game board. And like I said, if 4 of these get removed, you lose. So it's a very heart thumpy game. I really get into it. Like I really think like I'm a firefighter. Like I feel like I'm going in there hosing down fires, making sure that I'm like, I'll get you. And like
You gotta strategize with the people that you're playing with.
one of the
Like,
actions I love
You'll
doing.
have one person be a runner.
Yep.
They'll get the people, and then the other one will be like a fire extinguisher.
And one of my favorite actions, but is the most dangerous action, because there's these, I'll show you guys. There's these little black cubes, right? Little tiny cubes, right? Nothing on them. What these represent is every time a fire hits a wall, or you can use your axe to chop down a wall, you put one of these down. If there's 2 of these on a wall, the wall is broken, and you can walk through that wall then, which is great. But if this bag is all gone of these cubes, that means the house collapses because there's no more structure in it, and you also lose. So it's like, do you want to chop down that wall to save
It's
that person because they're surrounded by fire? Or do you want to like hope you can get in there, or it's insane. I absolutely love it. It's a lot of like, it makes my blood pressure rise, but in a good way. I'll let you do that. So Panda,
The best part is you can't like walk through the fire. Like that's not a thing. So like you have to put up fire that's in your way.
and what's even crazier is like sometimes you'll have to like, so to get the victims out, you can't just walk up to them and then they disappear. No. You have to actually carry them out to the ambulance. So as you're like, you throw them on your shoulder, which means now instead of 1 action point to move, it's now 2. So you're like hosing things out while you're like backing out towards the door, hoping that another fire doesn't come while you're like, hey, cover me. And like other people are like trying to hose the fire for you while you're carrying the victim out.
It's a good game.
Wow. It just seems so kind of very interactive. I mean, because you got to really put yourself into it, like get in the mindset of a firefighter as opposed to a person like me just hearing the game say, you can make explosions happen. Ooh.
So I know we're going to play next time we go visit Poke.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to play.
Game. I will say,
The last time we played that, the 2 walls nearest to the ambulance were already broken down, so we just kept walking through the broken wall instead of using the door.
Broken. Panda, go ahead and tell me a little bit about your feelings. So I know you like Pandemic a little bit more, but I will say in some levels this is comparable.
I do like a lot of games more than I like Flashpoint, for example, like Pandemic or Viticulture, things like that. But I will say what Flashpoint has that those don't is that like heart beating anxiety of like, where's the fire going to come from next? What wall is going to go down? You know, and you're constantly trying to think about how do I keep the survivors alive and myself going while not breaking down the whole house and putting out these fires.
Yeah.
Knocking down walls.
And it's one of those games that you don't know if you've won until you won.
Yeah.
Like there's
Definitely.
no point where you think, oh, we got this.
No. Like a lot of games, you're like, okay, there's a certain point where I can relax. We're probably got this. We're probably got the win. Flashpoint, Fire Rescue, no. And now I've heard that they've come out with a legacy version. And what a legacy version, if you guys don't know what that is that means that if you make a certain choice in the game, that choice may be saved for all future games, kind of like a video game, where like, hey, this wall burned down, maybe in your next gameplay, that wall might be burned down, just as an example. Which I thought was like really cool. Legacy games are makes me like go, oh, that sounds super freaking cool. Have not got my hands on it yet. Hint, hint, anybody who wants to send it over. But I've been wanting to try that version of it. But no, I love Flashpoint Fire Rescue. It's one of my favorite games. Not top 10, but definitely up there. And I play as much of it as I can when I can. But it's not easy. Like, and I will say this, like I've been raving about how good it is. I would not recommend it for someone that's never played a board game before, first of all. For mostly because, again, it's not an easy game to win, even if you've played board games before. And secondly, the setup is so long. I feel like I sit in the rule book for like 20 minutes just trying to set up the board game.
Ooh.
Oh my.
Yeah, and I don't like that. Like, I'm okay with that if I'm playing with a group of friends that know what we're doing, because like once it's set up, we'll blast through the game. Like, it's super quick. But like if I'm playing with new people that I also have to explain the rules to, and then we have the 20-minute thing, I'm like, like I'll play this game with new people for sure, but I'll just tell people like, hey, expect this to be like an hour and a half. And they'll be like, oh, why? I'll be like, I'm going to set the game up ahead of time before you even get here. Then I'm going to walk you through the game and then we'll play it. But let me set up the game before you get here, because if I don't, we're going to be sitting here for like 30 minutes while I set the dang thing up.
Wow. Well, you know, I haven't played board games in a really long time, but I think most of the games I've always played, it wasn't like the kind you have to really like do a lot of setup to. It was more like, here are the rules and this is how you just, and you play. But I've never played any games that are that with a lot of setup, with the exception of, as a kid, which my mother threw out because she got sick of it, Mousetrap. When I had Mousetrap as a kid, my mother was so sick of the pieces getting in the way, or we kept dropping it on the floor or something. I came home and said, "Hey, where'd my Mousetrap game go?" It's in the
Mousetrap only
trash.
worked for me one time ever. And then after that, it was like, nope, Mousetrap don't feel like working. I will say, so this is a personal thing that I have to express. Again, controversial opinion, but that's what podcasts are for. Um,
Mousetrap.
I feel like all the mainstream board games that people see, Monopoly, Mousetrap, Uno, all the
Battleship.
Candyland, all that stuff doesn't represent the board game community or the board games in general at all. There's
Mhm.
like I could recommend 10 other board games. I'm not gonna do that right now. That I would recommend as like a get into the hobby type of thing is like, hey, this is what a board game is supposed to be like. This like, and you could have a blast with it. Tell me a little bit of things that you enjoy, and I'll throw you a board game. Like for instance, Mark really likes comic books. There's a game that's coming to the U.S. called Comic Book Hunters, and it's all about collecting comic books,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
it's freaking sweet. And the whole point of it is like you just collect cards, and all those cards have a picture of like someone that made a comic book, and you just have to collect like maybe you're the Hulk collector, so you just want to collect all the Hulk comic books in the game. Like that's the whole point of the game is just get all the Hulk comic books. Just as an example, but like there's a bunch of games that are out there for like the public for you guys to see, and it's like Uno, Monopoly, stuff like that, and I'm like, this doesn't represent our hobby almost at all, and it's kind of a shame. So that's part of why I wanted to do the podcast too, is like I know I think some people that call themselves nerds or whatever you want to call yourself, geek, nerd, dork, whatever, there's certain things that I feel like people should explore into. I don't explore enough into comic books. I think I should, and I think other people should explore into board games, test some things. You never know. So, but yeah, has anyone? How much of board games have any of you played? I know. We'll go with Drew and Panda first because I know they played a little bit, but and then we'll go into the rest of you. So, Drew and Panda, we'll start with you guys. Drew, go ahead.
So I wasn't ever really like hardcore into board games. I was very familiar with the Monopolies of the world, the stuff that's on the shelf. Sorry, Uno, Monopoly. And then my wonderful brother over there, Poke Adventure. Um, he showed me a lot of different board games that some were good, some were bad, some were annoying, some were not annoying. A lot of them I liked, but I never really had the time for. So we kind of like made time to play them, I guess. I slowly realized that I am a card game fanatic. Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, all of it. Anything involving cards that I can sit there and do this with. Where's the camera? Do this with? Um, yeah. But I really, really, really enjoy card-based board games. I'll play other ones. Like I'm sure we'll talk about Twilight Imperium at some point. That's like the mother of all board games. But like I've played Clank before. I played Firepoint Rescue. I've played Betrayal of House on the Hill. I've played all kinds of stuff. Kingdom Death Monster. There is so much. I don't even remember them all. Like I said, some were good, some were bad, some were boring, some were great. But yeah, I like the card ones.
Panda?
As far as board games goes, it is pretty hard to get me to play them. But then at the same time, once I start playing one that I really like, it's all I want to do. Like as soon as the game is over, I'm like,
Right.
want to play another one? You want to play another one? You want to play another one? I annoy people so bad with that. Like
This one.
Last Bastion is one of my guilty pleasures. I will trap somebody for hours just playing that over and over. I do have to say my favorite board game though. Here's another one. Here's my very first board game. this is my very own very first board game. It's actually technically a card game. It's called Battle Kittens. Meow. But my favorite board game of all time, which has been my favorite for a while, which I don't think we have right here with us right now. Actually, we do.
Oh, that one's your favorite. I thought it was not your favorite.
This is my favorite board game, which is Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Betrayal. Such a good game.
If I have people to play with, I will play that from sun up to sundown without any breaks, no stopping. Because I'm a fan of all things horror, all things creepy, you know. And so it fits right in that wheelhouse for me.
I'm surprised that's your favorite, to be honest.
It is.
Betrayal is a wonderful
I sat here
game.
thinking about it the whole time.
I was like, I for sure thought it was going to be Pandemic, but, or Blast Fashion. But I'm surprised.
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, the game that Panda just mentioned, the Betrayal of the House on the Hill, is it kind of like I mean, I know she was saying, like, you know, she likes the creepy and all of that, but is it kind of like a mystery type game too?
It is. Basically what happens is you go into this house. It turned out to be a haunted house. And it is like the darker, more twisted cousin of Clue. Every time you play, the rooms are different, the house layout's different, the monsters are different, you know, everything's different every time. And you have to figure out how to get out of the house, how to survive, how to defeat the monsters. So it's very like detective-y.
And the really cool thing about it, which is my favorite, and like some people don't like the game because of this in general, just the game in general, but the people who love it, like us, love it for this reason, is about halfway through the game, there's a point where it's cooperative at first, but halfway through the game, one of the players becomes bad. Like the house corrupts them essentially, and then that one person goes into a separate room, reads their new instructions on how to win the game, and then the other people stay in the room and then figure out how to defeat the bad guy together.
I played that one before with Sweet Pea. Back when I went to visit my brother, like about 3 or so years ago. And yeah, it was kind of like those games that took forever to explain all the rules, especially for Johnny. That's not good to catch on to all that kind of like the more complicated, the faster you lose them, so to speak. Yeah. I remember that thing, and you go into the haunted house. One of you gets corrupted. That was me at one point, and then like,
oh, should I be afraid?
Oh yeah. But I had to go somewhere so I wouldn't listen, because then like Pete, Johnny, and the third friend, might have been Jimmy, all got someplace to discuss, like, you know, their strategy on how to stop me and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I want to really, really play this game. I'll trust you. Go away. Go away. I'll trust you.
You're a wonderful.
You're corrupted.
I would recommend the not the current one, but the one before one.
What? Oh yeah. This one is second edition. I want to get the third edition. It has the newest content. It has 2 new expansions to it, but I have the second edition, which has 1 expansion, which I do have.
We got to talk about Smash Up one day.
Yes, for sure. I have to get that game again. And then Doc, how many board games, or how are you familiar with board games, if at all?
Yeah,
you know, just so that our audience is.
Not too many. I'm kind of lean more towards the people who are like, oh, Monopoly and Battleship and Uno, Kingland. I have played Mashup once or twice. My dad ended up getting.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, my dad ended up getting like the massive box that has like, I'm not gonna say all, but like a bunch of the different like factions that you can play.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, like, I know there's like grandmas and robots. And
yes, grandmas. Yes.
Grandmas, robots, wizards, leprechauns.
Yeah.
The grandmas is one of my favorite factions in that game. I love playing the grandmas.
Yeah. I played so my dad actually as well, him and his girlfriend, so his girlfriend's brother, they like, so the brother and his girlfriend, I think now fiance, they also like play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, okay. And so they were like offering like, hey, like we'll bring it over. We'll have like a game day. Basically, we'll have like D&D food like being made. I'm like, all right, sweet. I didn't realize actually, apparently the game that they got, granted, it was D&D, but it was like it was pre-made characters on like a sheet or like a little pamphlet that you would get. It was like a pre-made like cardboard board that you would play on, and you were given like tokens. And it's not like, oh, you have a movement, you have an action and a bonus action like regular. It's like, hey, you have a movement and then you have like an action or like an ability that you can do, and then that's it. And we ended up going through, I think, like a dungeon, and
I think it sounds similar to Munchkin.
Say again?
It sounds similar to Munchkin.
Yeah, but Munchkin's mean.
Like if you've ever played Munchkin.
I haven't. I've seen people play it, so I know of it. But it was a little different, and I think it used like a point system for like, oh, hey, you have this amount of points for movement, and then like, okay, now we're going into the action phase, which was interesting. But as far as like other board games, I mean, I know there's like Ticket to Ride. I know there's a bunch of other ones. Haven't really gotten into it. Like I know, so with my job, I end up meeting a lot of like new homeowners, and sometimes we do end up talking about like, just kind of like building rapport, just talking about like whatever. And there was one house that I went to where they had their whole TV cabinet, which is filled with a bunch of different board games. Like, so like,
Cool.
so we talked about that for a bit, and in fact, actually, one family I ended up that I saw on Saturday, they were currently playing Ticket to Ride.
Oh,
So
yeah, let's go.
yes, yeah. So we kind of like talked about that for a little bit, but actually playing, I don't have a whole lot of experience with like board games.
But that's one of the games that, like I was saying, like there's like 10 board games I'd recommend. That's one of them. Like Ticket to Ride is a great board game for people to try out, put their
where you like
feet wet.
stop your opponents from getting the train tracks that they need,
Yep.
like cutting them off.
I'd recommend it because you could play that game nicely. You could play that game very meanly. Depends on how you feel like, but that game is a lot of fun. But at this point, I'm going to transition again, not trying to take up too much time, and we're going to transition into something that I think 4 of us can talk about. I'm not sure about the other 2, so we'll see. We're going to talk about tabletop role-playing games. And is homebrew good for tabletop role-playing games?
Yes. Yes.
Over.
In monitored situations, it can be good. You have to have a good dungeon master or crypt keeper or whatever you have for whatever kind of TTRPG to moderate out the things that are vastly overpowered. But I do think it brings a lot of creativity to the game where you wouldn't see a lot of it in pre-made content.
Oh yeah. Homebrew. I think of it as like, if you want to like connect it to something, it's like video games but with mods.
Exactly.
Like that's
Right.
honestly what it is. And there are times when people who make homebrew where like, oh, this system that they've made is actually better than what the actual
than
like
the
official rules are. You're like, oh, cool, like, I'm going to use that. And honestly, name one game that you've played, whether it be tabletop RPG, card game, board game, whatever it is, where you haven't had your own home rules. Like Uno, like
That's true.
everyone has their own like
That's
Uno
great.
home rules.
And a perfect example of this, just for example, did you know that 99% of the world doesn't play Monopoly right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to like, I think like when you like buy land, you're actually, or like if no one ends up buying it, it goes into like an auction.
Yeah, you automatically have to go into an auction. Whenever you, like, free parking does not give you money. Some people put money in the middle, or if they say that there's $50 in the middle when you hit free parking, you get that money. No, that's not a thing. That's a rule that someone made up.
The way that my family and I used to play it was if you had to pay the bank any kind of money, whether it was like taxes or anything like that from like chance, you'd put that money instead in the center, and it would slowly build up until someone hit that free parking spot, and then they would get all that money.
And some people play where like if you land on go and then move past go, you get 200 for landing on go and then 200 for passing go. That's not a rule either. Like, there's a lot of rules that people use for the Monopoly that are just not real rules. But that's fine. That's cool. Like that's what made games, that's what passed on from
Makes it more fun.
family. Yeah, it's what makes it more fun. That's the family connection you had, and that's great. But I translate that back to D&D or any tabletop role-playing game is like, just because there's homebrew, like I know there's probably some rules lawyers right now typing on their keyboards crazy, but I understand rules are important, and I'm not saying rules aren't important, but that doesn't mean that you can't throw in a cool thing here and there or something that isn't in the main rule books. In fact, in the original,
I feel that it needs to be moderated when it gets put in. Like, someone can't just be like, "Oh, flaming sword that like shoots fire across the nation." It's just like, no. Like, did you clear that with anybody first?
Yeah.
Like, way too much, guy. Reel back.
As Panda said, with enough balance, homebrew can make the game better. Like,
100%.
Wait, I have a question. I know you guys are talking about like the homebrews and stuff, but I just have a Monopoly question here.
Sure.
What's your opinion on the more modern version of Monopoly where you're not like, where you don't even physically handle the money anymore and everyone has like a debit card or a credit card and you just tap and all that stuff?
I will
I've never
say,
even heard of that.
I liked that one more than regular Monopoly. It's still, this gets into cardinal sins of board games, but I do like that one more than regular Monopoly. And don't get me wrong, I make it sound like I hate Monopoly. And in some ways I hate Monopoly because of what it stands for or what people think it stands for. But I love playing Monopoly. It's a lot of fun. I usually get my ass whooped in it. But I love playing it. I like the debit card one.
Monopoly that I enjoy doesn't have debit cards, but it's got like, so the Monopoly that I enjoy doesn't really have the debit cards, but it's got like little statey. It's much more expensive than the regular Monopoly for some reason, but it brings a whole lot of added stuff to the game, which ties back to our whole thing of this was a homebrew somebody built once, and it just became a game because they could like make money off it,
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes to homebrew, like a perfect example, I am a very homebrew DM. And my fiance currently in our game, she wanted to be both a cat and a dragon. Tabaxi and Dragonborn. So she is currently a dragon cat, quite literally.
A Drabaxi.
For short, Drabaxi, as she just said. And
the cute name.
It is awesome. First one of her kind in the entire game in my world. Doc here has a character who, this isn't normally in D&D, but he's a gunslinger. He has a couple of rifles, some guns, and he just, there's not a lot of guns in my world because, don't want to break the game too crazy wide open, but, a gunslinger here and there.
And actually, the gunslinger class I'm playing is a homebrew class. Like, it's fully fleshed. Well, I'm not gonna say fully fleshed out, but it's fleshed out to the point where like, okay, this is actually doable. It has like, all right, you get these things at these certain levels. Like, oh, here's some magic items that can be used by the gunslinger. Like, oh, here's some like modifications. If you want to add like a scope, if you want to add a suppressor, like, oh, a hair trigger to your gun. And then it goes like, okay, here, and actually like towards the end, it shows like, okay, here's like a balancing of like roughly approximate like damage per round. And it use like, oh, if you're using marksman, if you're using sharpshooter, whatever, it kind of gives you like, hey, this is basically the research that we've done with that. And then also going to homebrew as well. I send poke so many magic items.
So many.
And like honestly, like there were times where I'm like, I should stop. Like I am blowing up his Instagram right now. Like I'm just sitting here like just like at the car dealership. I'm getting an oil change. I'm just like, oh, that'd be neat. That'd be neat. All right, sure. And I'm like, I should stop.
I should
So much shit. Yeah, like I am, and granted, I'm always also that person who like I will ask if I can do something just to see if he'll say yes. And honestly, usually most of the time you end up doing say yes. And
Yeah.
and in fact, there actually even are times where I'm like, you sure? Because it's okay. It's okay if you say no. I was just genuinely asking.
But I think that also comes into play where like most of the time, like if I think it's overpowered, I'll say like, hey, let's make this tweak about it. Or, you know, and I think that's where the DM is important in these situations is like, hey, let's make this modification, or you can get that, but
But
there's a price, or you have to do this quest or whatever. And I think that's important is like some people like, I understand people take it to the extreme and they just say yes to everything. And I don't think that's right in any way, shape, or form. But I also think saying no to everything is also incorrect. You shouldn't just say no to homebrew because it's homebrew. And you shouldn't just say yes to homebrew because it's homebrew. You know, homebrew is cool, but some things are just way overtuned. Or the opposite is just, you know, it's weak, or, you know, it just won't make sense in your world. Like, my world right now is known as Narvonia, and it has a very specific storyline and the way things are turning out. Like right now, there are guns in my world technically, but they're like, it's far and few apart. Like two or three gunslingers in the party wouldn't make sense. So if like one of my other party members wanted to say, hey, I want to be a gunslinger, I'd be like, look, we got to make a whole story about this because like that's not common. Like one is already uncommon enough. Two is pushing it. So like, and that's the whole thing with homebrew is like,
and I grabbed that shit day one.
Yeah. You were like, gunslinger, mine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, because like I said, this is all foreign to me. So, so no, seriously, it is. So, like so this for like your for homebrews, because like I said, you're just pretty much coming up with your own, not really coming up with your own rules, but you're like being flexible with the kind of world you're building for the games that you're playing, right? Pretty
No,
much.
you're making your own rules.
Yeah, it depends.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes it's making up your own rules. Like what I do most of the time is you got to balance the world, and he'll send me items all the time, and I'll look at them and see if they're good. And, you know, it's not, sometimes it's the rules. Like sometimes like I have an armor system that works differently than the regular armor system. That's a whole rule set for different kinds of armor. But there might just be a cool item. Like I want to use the wand of fairy magic because I can. Sometimes it'll be a whole, you know, character. Sometimes it'll be, it's all kinds of different things. But you have to have testers too. Like whenever I do this kind of stuff, right? The biggest thing is I want to make sure that they're tested. Because if someone just says, hey, I found this, right? My first thought usually, if it's not a magic items I can just test myself. But if someone sends me like a rule set, the first thing I look for is how much was this tested? How much, because like if someone said, I made this, and I go, cool. Did you test it? Well, no, because I want to know if you liked it. Well, did the people who made it test it? No. Then I'd be a little wary. But if they say, oh yeah, there's like 100 people, they play tested it for 1,000 hours. I then go, okay, well, let's see what we could do. You know, that was tested for 1,000 hours. You know, there's obviously some thought put into this, some feedback put into this, and then we can run with that or change it if need be if we find issues later. So, yeah.
Yeah, homebrew is just like, all right, here are the base rules. Let's maybe like either rules, you can tweak them either a little bit or a lot, depending, of course. Yeah, if you're just adding items, NPCs I think in general are usually homebrew anyway. But like whole classes or even just the entire system itself.
Yep.
But yeah, it also does go into the whole fact of like, yeah, you need to kind of collaborate and see like, okay, does the DM agree with this? Because if he doesn't, sorry, you're SOL. Like this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And going kind of going back to the items that I send them on Instagram, like and I read them. I'm just like, oh, that looks like, just looking from the art. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll look at it. I'll read it briefly. I'm like, that sounds overpowered or it doesn't make sense. Like there's been like a couple that I've seen where I'm like, oh, this is an uncommon item, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, this should be a rare or like a very rare, maybe legendary. Like, why is this uncommon? It doesn't make sense.
Well, why does this rip a hole in the ozone?
Yeah. Yeah, that or like just because, especially because I usually skim them for the most part. If there's like a lot of text, I'll try to read it, but if it gets into into weirdly specific scenarios, I'm like,
Nah.
yeah, I'm not going to deal with that, because the magic item for homebrew is like, hey, this is like a broad kind of spectrum. Like, hey, this could be kind of put anywhere. The only real specificities that I really am like, all right, cool, it could be used in certain situations. If it's like, a common or uncommon item, like, oh, maybe this might show up, but it's an item that's supposed to be considered common enough to where like, it's not going to like break the game or anything like that, so it's fine. Or I immediately lost my fucking train of thought.
Unscathed.
Yeah. That or the specificities, which granted I usually a lot of times do, is like, oh, here's a magic item, requires a spellcaster. Cool, fine. Or like, oh, hey, this item is used by a monk or a barbarian. Cool, all right. Like,
Brass knuckles.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can pull up like the whole list. I mean, hold on, let me see if I can do that real quick. Because it's just, I mean,
Wow.
That's all the things that Doc sent me in the last couple of days of just being like, hey, here's some cool homebrew items that, might work, so you could place them somewhere.
yeah.
And at some point,
just
you're
say-
going to come across a shop and be like, hey, that's the item I sent you. I don't need it, but hey.
Yeah, and granted, like there are like some items on here. I'm like, okay, this is obviously taken from something. Like one of the items I sent him was the pick of destiny from Tenacious D. Because at one point I wanted to make that magic item. I'm like, oh, cool, someone made it. It's a legendary thing. It has to be attuned by a non-good bard. Makes sense.
Non-good bard. That's awesome.
That's what it says.
Wait, a non-good bard. I mean,
Yes. So in D&D there is an alignment system. So like chaotic good, lawful good, neutral evil, that kind of thing.
okay.
So if they're neutral or evil, then that's who it's supposed to attune to. It basically, granted, in 5th edition D&D, they don't use the alignment system a whole lot. I think a lot of people just kind of use it to be like, here's a base kind of like where the character's morals are at. Lawful good is like you follow the rules like by law, like to the T, like you don't want to break rules at all. Chaotic evil, which is like the evil, like you don't give a about anyone, like you will murder like women and children and won't bat an eye. And then there's like everything in between. So there's like neutral, like true neutral, where you're like, like I kind of lean this way, I can lean that way, it just kind of depends. And there's ones that are like lawful evil, where you follow a code or a set of rules that are so that's the lawful part, but the evil bit is how you end up doing it.
Or chaotic evil, where you're Deadpool.
Yeah. No. Like honestly, I don't think Deadpool is chaotic evil because he still has a good morality conscience about it.
That's true.
Granted, although like I will
He's
say,
neutral evil.
yeah,
He's
like
like
he's
chaotic,
morally neutral.
sort of.
Yeah, but although like Thanos, for example, like Thanos specifically more so in the Marvel movies, I would consider him as lawful evil
Yeah.
because in his mind he's trying to save the world by getting like he's trying to save like the world to make sure that it thrives, but how he does it that gets rid of half the population of everything, so that's the evil bit. So in his mind he's doing the right thing, but it's just how he's doing it's just messed up.
Okay, I'm starting to understand that. Okay, I get that now. Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to throw in just my 2 cents, because I don't have too much to say. I have zero experience in tabletop role-playing games. I want to say that, the homebrew is a good thing. If it comes to the question of whether or not it's good, I think it's a good thing because it's all based on fun and imagination and creativity. So why limit that, And but obviously, like
that's
you
my
guys
point.
said, without,
The crazy.
at least with some safeguards so to get too out of it.
I guess within reason,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everything. But yeah, that's the only thing I can say really.
Yeah,
But,
because I don't have any experience with the tabletop games anyway. I only know one person in real life that knows how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and she promised to show us how to play, but we've just never been able to get together so she can even show me, how to do it. Oh, and I knew another girl that used to like playing Magic the Gathering. My old roommate, she used to
Yeah.
like playing that, but I don't know anything about them.
I am
And
absolutely
another friend
sure.
that played the Pokemon, he likes doing the Pokemon trading card game and go to the like tournament things every once in a while. So yeah.
I'm sure if you gave Pokken Panda the option to teach you about it, he will do it with open arms and immediately.
yeah,
He's like,
I'm
oh,
pretty sure he would.
sure, all right, let me bring out some of these books.
Don't. Oh, and once you learn those, here's some homebrew books. Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the Dungeons and Dragons thing, 'cause when I was talking to my friend about it, I mean, she was like, said she always really enjoyed it, but I was always a little intimidated by it because I hear about how there are like so many rules for the game. That's like, I just want to play a game where I can cast some spells and beat some monsters,
Let me tell you how a game of D&D usually goes, okay? You ready? You ready for this?
It's not
I'm going to teach you all the rules in about 2 seconds. You ready? Your character's in a mall. Tell me what you do.
You said what now?
Your character's in a mall. Tell me what you do.
In a mall?
Yep.
Go shopping?
Okay, you go shopping. You go shopping. Basically what happens is I would say, okay, now do a perception check. You roll a die. Say you roll a 15. I tell you what you see. And then that's basically how the game is played. For the basic,
the dungeon
basically, I'm a narrator. You just say what you want to do, and then I narrate to the next part of what you're going to do.
Oh geez.
Oh.
Mall D&D and Nick is the mall master,
Oh my gosh, you got to do a homebrew with a mall version, a homebrewed mall version of D&D.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to go like a massive like four floor mall or something to make it like a massive, type thing.
You get swarmed by
I think that would actually get a little boring after a while. I'd rather just do real things. No, we have to fight security guards though.
Well, no, but you'll do things like maybe zombies break into the
You
mall.
slip on
Now you gotta
a
do stuff
puddle on
like-
your way to the store. Now what do you do?
Or in Drew's worst nightmare, the food court is closed.
Panda,
We gotta solve it.
Right?
Solve that case.
Right?
Panda had an amazing idea.
You get swarmed by a mob of Hot Topic tweens.
Wait, what? I didn't catch it.
Swarmed by a mob of Hot Topic tweens.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh God. Oh my God. Okay, what weapon can I use against them?
What weapon?
Deodorant.
Deodorant.
Axe body spray.
Well, you want to fight the mob, not kill them.
Alrighty, so here's what we're gonna do.
G note.
Just so you know, Mark.
I heard that. Gee, no. God damn it.
Just so you know, Mark, you will have to do a little bit of editing. Yeah.
like honestly, yeah, like I should probably change my name to my actual D&D character because I think you know me by that one the most.
Which one?
Gunslinger Titus.
Yeah, I actually made a joke. I was like, you know what? He might change his name to Titus.
Yeah, because like, as soon as I said Doc, I was like, it should be Titus.
Anytime I talk about you, even when we're not in a D&D setting, like if it's just me and Pokey, I still call you Titus.
Can you
Yep.
change
So
your
it
name
would
to
work
Titus
for
now?
me.
Just have it like that
Yeah.
going forward?
Yeah, I might as well. Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know if we can do it while it's still recording.
yeah. I mean, granted, like to be fair, like granted, even though I know your real name, I still consider you Katra.
Yeah.
Also, I actually think it's kind of funny that with the game that we're playing now, we have Nemia and we have
Yo, oh,
Anima.
Amina? Yeah.
Amina. Yeah, see, but they're so similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to like really think about it.
Nemia Carhide.
Amina and Nemia. You're like you
He
just
is
switch the vowels.
He is a turtle with a spiked shell.
All righty.
Tucks and
So we're going to
slacks.
switch topics because it's already running on 10 o'clock. And I think we're about halfway through our topics right now.
Yeah. But what is Titus's like department or section or?
Most of it was tabletop role-playing games.
Okay. Then
He's, of course, with the rest of it as well. And I know he has some things to talk about the Fallout TV show, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. But first, and I think you'll have words on this too. And I think everybody will have a little bit of words.
Okay.
All righty. So now we're going to talk about Saw. This is our movie host. Go ahead, movie host.
So for my movie, I was told to pick a movie. And I picked one of my favorite horror franchises ever, which was Saw. And I figured it would be fitting to go with the first one because that's where it all started. So Saw, the director is James Wan. And it was beautiful from start to finish. It was one of those movies where every time you thought you knew what was happening, you really didn't know what was happening. And I love those kind of movies because as Nick knows, both me and him, we're those kind of people where we can predict what's going to happen in a movie or a show.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't, I couldn't do this with this one. So, and I was a big fan of The Princess Bride when I was a kid. Massive fan. I don't know if anyone else knows that movie, The Princess Bride, with like Wesley and Buttercup and.
Go away! I'll call the bird
Wesley-
squad. I'm on the bird squad. You are the bird squad.
Wesley is actually in that movie. He's a main character. He's the doctor in that movie. The one that gets kidnapped and tortured and his family gets taken. And I remember seeing that for the first time and going, that's Wesley. Okay. And one of the funny little jokes I like to tell about that show is a big part of the show, a big part of that movie is him and his wife are having issues. And I like to say like, wow, Wesley and Buttercup really went downhill. Like it's not as you wish anymore, you know?
Oh.
But I did have a couple like fun things like, I'm not going to try to talk too much on the later movies, but the fact that there was so many hints of like, there is going to be later movies. Like if you watch later movies, you're like, okay, that's from the first one. Okay, that's from the first one. It almost seems like they had the whole franchise planned out already ahead of time. And so, I mean, does anyone have any thoughts on that or?
You mean like thoughts on if they had like planned everything out, you mean? Or just
Did you pick up anything like if you have watched the franchise, like, okay, so the first one was hinting at this, or the first one was trying to show us this?
See, the thing is, I saw the first Saw movie and I didn't see past 5, I believe. But the problem is that I saw them then at the time, so my memory is very hazy on it. So I can't remember too much, but I do remember little things like you mentioned, like maybe at the time I do remember saying, well, this was from that movie, or this happened earlier. So, it was kind of seemed like it was trying to build up stuff. So I will admit that. So, but like I said, my memory is still very hazy on it because it was just so long ago.
It was. It was.
I rewatched it. What was that? Yesterday or the day before?
We rewatched it yesterday. Yesterday.
Because I wanted to be refreshed on it, and yeah, like the movie was very. I forgot most of Saw 1. I'm not gonna lie, but rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, there's that thing. Wait, and that leads into that thing, and like it really does feel like all of them are connected. And that's kind of why I like the Saw movies, period, as a horror series, is like, I feel like they're very, I'm not huge into horror movies. Like, I like them. But as my wife knows, I don't get scared from movies very much, and I can predict a lot of them. So like whenever I predict things and they're not scary, halfway through the movie I usually go, this is how it ends, right? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay.
When I watch movies and shows with Pokey, I have to get like 5 minutes in, I have to start gaslighting him. And then I have to gaslight him for like 45 minutes into thinking like, no, you're wrong. That's not how this ends. Like you just hang out. You have no idea what happens. And then he's right. But I try to make it at least semi-enjoyable.
And like that's the thing about Saw is like you can't really see that coming. Like most of it, you're like, especially with which there's a little tiny bit of a spoiler, but especially with certain traps or what have you getting sabotaged, it really makes you not know. And I think that's what makes a horror movie interesting is like you don't want to know what comes around the corner. That's the point of jump scares. That's the point of horror. That's the point of being afraid in movies and stuff is like you shouldn't know what's coming around the corner. Knowing defeats the purpose, in my opinion.
So, spoilers for anyone who's never watched this movie, but although if you haven't watched the first Saw movie by now, what are you doing?
Watching something else.
Titus. We were watching the first one yesterday, and he looked at me and was like, okay, well, after this one, does Amanda start working with Jigsaw? And I'm like, no, she's already working with him. And he was kind of like thrown through a loop for a second because in the first one, it cuts between, Gordon and Adam, I think, being in the dungeon and, Tap doing his thing. And then Amanda having escaped her trap and being talked to by the police. But what the first movie doesn't tell you is that is three very kind of different points of periods of time. So like Amanda had already escaped and that had already happened a while back and she was already an apprentice for Jigsaw at this point. She's the one that helped set up the first trap in the first movie. That was her first test. And it doesn't tell you that until later.
Amanda was the dark-haired girl, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that's kind of crazy, right? Because the movie, like you would think it starts out with just that guy, just Jigsaw, but then you find out that he had all these apprentices, and then they also have like copycats too, like Jigsaw copycat killers too and stuff.
I believe that there was one copycat killer, and I think Jigsaw like put him through a trap as well or something. Something happened along those lines. But the thing that I like most about Amanda and also hate most about Amanda is her habit of messing things up and rigging traps. Like constantly. But she's always preaching about how if they pass this test, then they're worthy. But if they don't, then they're not worthy. But you rig it half the time. Or you mess it up half the time. Or you just straight up kill people half the time.
Mm-hmm.
She's something.
And I think the whole morality of it, and I think that's also my draw to this specific horror series, is like the whole reason he does this is to basically tell people that they need to redeem themselves because they've done messed up things. They've like cheated on their wives or cheated in financial reasons for with a company or fucked them out of a cure or whatever. And yeah.
I think I think with many horror movies, it's really hard to relate and root for the killer.
This one's too easy.
But with Saw, the Saw movies, I was rooting for John Kramer from the first movie. The first movie, I was like, oh, I'm totally on board 100% with what he's doing. Because he doesn't go back on his word. If you survive his trap, if you pass his test, you're free to go. You know? And I don't know. People look at me weird when I say that.
Yeah, you just have to, cut off your arm or leg or something, or cut a key out of your arm and stuff like that. But
or stand on a block of ice and have your head smashed or something. That's the usual stuff.
But hey, if you wanted to cut off your leg, hey, you're free to go.
I just think it's interesting his approach at you didn't appreciate your life before, but now you do. Now that you had to fight for it and you had to do something awful just to survive, now you appreciate your life.
Or like, on the Fist of the North Star, those guys.
Yeah. 2 months later, chasing his wife again.
Oh.
Drew, have you ever watched the Saw series?
So I've seen bits and pieces and I know the general plot, but I haven't actually watched them.
I do remember you saying that. You did watch other horror movies though, right?
Yes. Yep. I've done Freddy Krueger. I've done Jason. I've done I can't think of them off the top of my head because I'm kind of on the spot now. But yeah, I've seen other ones.
I've never watched the Jason series.
Nope.
I've watched a couple of the Jason series. I love horror. I love everything gore and scary but I don't like slashers just for the
Jason
sake of
was
slasher.
good up until a certain point.
That too.
Like
as
after
soon
a
as they
while,
put
they
Jason
were
on the
like,
moon, I was done.
yeah.
There's no
It's like,
reason.
why is he even there? Like, there's no reason for him to actually be on the moon because his whole thing is, I am killing the people that were involved with the camp. Why am I on the moon?
There's
That makes
suddenly
no
a lake on the
sense.
moon, on the dark side of the moon, and Jason appears.
Or the one where he like goes to hell or the future, and it's just like, what even is this series anymore?
My favorite.
Did Jason go to
of the
Manhattan or
slashers-
something?
Yeah.
My favorite of the slashers that you were talking about was definitely Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah.
Yes, that was such a good one. Freddy versus Jason was the shit.
I just loved how the people like took the fire for Freddy and like the water for Jason and was like, okay, how do we contain them and make them kill each other?
In fact, I think Squish said that he thought it should have ended after that one.
It should have.
I do. It should have.
I mean, Jason won. The fact that Freddy kind of like just lived just cause kind of
Yeah.
irritated me.
I also don't like how they took Freddy either, because Freddy was like this horror monster thing, and then they turned him from horror monster thing into pretty much a demon. And it's like, he's not really a demon though. Like, I don't understand why he's got souls in his body. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
I'll tell you, there's always like one point in a slasher series that like it goes beyond dumb and just loses
Yeah.
everybody. And like for Michael Myers, for example,
Halloween 4.
for me it was, I don't know which one number it is in the series, but it's the one where
36.
actually you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if this was Jason or Michael, but they get the killer gets baited by like an undercover like FBI agent or something, and then they kill him at the beginning of the movie, like first 10 minutes, and then he goes around possessing people.
Sounds like Jason. Sounds like Jason goes to hell.
That is so dumb.
Was it
I
like
also
worms or
didn't
something?
like the.
I guess sounds familiar. I've never seen it, but like clips or
I
something.
also didn't like the one where the killer was just multiple people. Like that's all it was. It was just
Ghostface?
multiple people. Like that was the big gag. Like
Yeah. Go
yes,
Scream is
where it was just like
notorious for
6
that.
people, and it's just like that is so lame.
Scream is notorious for that. It really is.
Like that, I did like that they made fun of other horror movies, but then it's just like, but your whole movie is about just being like more than one person. Like,
The whole Scream series just basically turned into a horror parody. Like there was no actual genuine horror. There was no
Yeah.
suspense. You knew what was going to happen. There was going to be 2 killers
I
all
think
along.
That's the one horror movie that I'm not sure.
I think that's where it like
Yeah.
brought in some of its fans is because it was making fun of everything else.
Yeah. But like for people like me that are looking for genuine horror, genuine shock value, it was a miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not into like the slasher films too much, but I do have a soft spot for the Halloween films, even the ones that are bad. Well, no, I take that back, because even I have my limitations. But yeah, so that's about the only slasher type things I watch. But if for me, I prefer movies that are more suspenseful and kind of, like the scary, but in a suspenseful way, it makes you really think. Those type of
Those are more
films.
like thrillers, right? Like
Yeah,
thrillers. Are
I guess so. Yeah, I guess I'm more into like the thriller type. Like for me, if you throw an Alfred Hitchcock movie on, I would be intrigued because there's suspense and well, they're not really scary, not by today's standards, but it's like it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like for example, like the latest Five Nights at Freddy's movie, that was kind of weird, but I did like it.
I haven't even bothered watching it because I mean the reviews were awful.
The reviews were pretty awful. I want to watch it because it has Markiplier in it, but I've heard that the
Markiplier's
reviews are
not in
terrible.
it.
Yeah, it's a cameo.
I want to
Oh, no, not
watch the
Markiplier, Mark,
Winnie
meant
the
that.
Pooh horror movie.
Yeah, a couple other people too. So
I knew Shaggy was in it.
Yeah.
That was like the only thing that like was like, okay, maybe I'll watch this, but then I heard that even when that was awful.
yeah, I liked it all right for what it was. But it did go in an interesting direction. I mean, I didn't know fully what was going to happen. It was a little suspenseful. It wasn't like a lot of jump scares and all that stuff. I don't like that either. So, and I don't like the jump scare thing. It seemed like they're trying to substitute jump scare for like actual good content. That kind of thing. It
Yeah.
seemed
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the horror
It's like a
movies, they
cheap
overdo
scare.
it.
Yeah.
So
My favorite-
where would you classify something like the Human Centipede?
That's just disgusting.
That's just
Yes. I've
That's
never
just-
seen it. I refuse to see it.
That's just disgusting for the sake of it being disgusting.
a lot of people call the Human Centipede series a cult classic, but I think it's just someone that should have been on a list somewhere. Maybe.
Yeah. let's kind of
I'm all
not
about-
have like the
I'm all
first
about
episode
gross
of
horror.
Hope's podcast be like going too deep into the Human Centipede.
Let's just cut this off. We just watch the South Park parody of it. We're good.
Yeah. So about Saw.
Uh,
What was your favorite movie? Wait,
Let's go back to
I'm
the
wondering
board.
for Panda though. What is your favorite Saw movie, and which is like your least favorite? Where maybe even you, as a big Saw fan, is kind of like, okay, now they're kind of getting too carried away or whatever. Which is your favorite and least favorite?
For years and years and years, it was the first one. First one was my favorite because that's what started it all. That's what started my obsession with like trap-based psychological torture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now it would have to be one of the newer ones. What's it called?
Which one are you thinking of?
The one that I watched. Saw X.
Saw 10, yeah.
I just recently watched that. I just recently finally got around to watching that. And it was the first time, spoilers again, it was the first time that I thought that Jigsaw lost.
Mm.
It was the first time that I thought John Kramer got outsmarted by the survivors, by the people in the traps, and was going to die. Like be killed by them, which we know that's not true because we've been shown how he dies, but there's that moment of doubt of like he's losing. Only for it to at the end turn around and be like, oh, he predicted all of this, typical John Kramer style. But it's the first Saw movie in a while that had me on the edge of my seat. Like, I don't know where this is going. So I think that's definitely up there, if not my favorite. As far as my least favorite goes, it would have to be, and I know this isn't technically a Saw movie. It's from the book of Saw, but it would have to be Spiral. Honestly, I feel like I don't know if it's my deep love for John Kramer and him not being in that movie, or if it's genuinely something they did different, but it just didn't feel like a Saw movie to me. And to put the Saw name on it, it felt kind of cheap.
Mm.
I do want to ask because, rating things is very important for the crowd. What would you rate, since we're talking about Saw 1, what would you rate Saw 1 on a 1 to 10, 1 to 10 stars? 10 is the best.
Being the fact that it's so old and it's still held up, I would give it like a solid 9. I really would.
Oh. Okay.
An excellence score.
It would be a 10 if it was longer. I'm just saying.
Personally, I think it would be an 8 for me.
An 8?
Yeah, I really like it, but I don't like the flip-floppy nature of it. That kind of throws me out of the mood of it. Like, I think I like how it goes between the different storylines of, like, the mother and daughter where they are, the old storyline with Detective Tapp and everything like that. But I think it does it too frequently. And I still get the storyline, and I know it's probably doing that on purpose to try to be confusing, but I think it's too much for me personally.
Well, like I've said, I think the first one is strictly like a setup for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Since I've rated that one, anyone else that's rated the first one, does anyone want to rate that?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen the whole, I've seen bits and pieces, and there's times where I've been to people's houses and it just so happens to be like what day we're watching. So I'm like, hey, I'll sit down and watch the second, whatever. I can't really give it a fair rating.
What about you, Jupi? You said that you watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know what I would rate it. I mean, I like it. I mean, I did like it okay because I like it was very suspenseful. Because I didn't, like Panda and them were saying, you didn't know what was going to happen, especially when you had that body in the middle of the room. It's like, yeah, so what's up with this dude here? What's happening? What's going on with that? You know what? Maybe I'll give it I think I'll give it an 8. I think I'll rate it as an 8 out of 10 because I did really like the movie for what it was. And like I said, you didn't know what was going to happen. You know how they were going to get out. You didn't know how desperate what's his name was going to get it. That's why I was kind of getting a little squeamish early because I was just thinking about the pain he was going through with that Saw. I said, oh, that's why it's called Saw. That's what I was thinking at the time, joking around. But well, I was like,
by the way, the ending of that one where he just stands up in the middle of that room at the end.
Oh, yeah.
10 out of 10.
when Jigsaw stood up off the floor and it showed that he was alive, he wasn't the guy that was poisoned, I got chills, but not nearly as much chills as going back and rewatching the first Saw and him slamming the door closed and going, game over, like that, it always hits a chord in me. Like, I love that.
I was trying not to spoil there, but yeah, Jigsaw playing dead in the middle of the floor.
I do have one more thing that I mentioned.
Good.
I want to do I wanted to also rate the one that I liked the least. So Spiral. Spiral was like I said, there wasn't John Kramer. All the traps were very much just to test one guy, which has been done before, but the way it was done, it was sloppy. It wasn't to the typical Saw fashion. I didn't like it at all. I'd have to give it like a 3 on a good day. And it's not a bad movie. Like if you watched it by itself, took off the Saw title, took off the expectations of like, John Kramer and this legacy that they've built, it would be a good movie. But the fact that they attribute it as a Saw film and then give us that, it's not so good. So that's it. That's all. That's my thing. I don't know where we're going next.
You're not done.
I'm not done. Am I doing another one?
Yeah.
Two in a
And
row?
the host, and now we're going to finish up with, that's probably about half of our topics. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to flip it in the other direction now and continue with the same host. We're going to talk about, and joining Panda to kind of host this is going to be Titus here, because he's also watched it, and I watched, I think, half of it. But we're going to talk about the Fallout TV series.
Oh, that's right. You're going to watch it.
So, who made that? Give us some of the actors of that, babe.
Some of the actors. You're going to have to scroll down or give me the thing.
It says directors and then...
The creators are Geneva Robertson Dworet and Graham Wagner. And the stars are Ella Purnell, Aaron Mutton, and Walton Goggins.
Sorry for any of the names that we may have butchered by accident.
Hey, that's what you get by making me say it. I'm horrible with names, so that's what you get. But Titus, do you want to start or?
I can.
I want to say, unfortunately, we didn't get to see it. It was just too busy of a week, so we kind of won't have much to say.
We will try to keep the spoilers to a minimum.
No, we will. No,
Including what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as like the show goes, I enjoyed it. I mean, I've played Fallout 4 the most, a little bit of Fallout 3. I mean, honestly, to the point where I probably really shouldn't count it. So like I knew roughly about like the Fallout world. I watched it with my girlfriend. She knew absolutely nothing. She just knew like the few minutes that she watched me play Fallout 4, like when she was like, that's all she knew. So the entire time she was asking me like, oh, is this part of the game? Is this part of the story? I'm like, no, it's not part of the game at all. It's just set in the world. I mean, I really enjoyed it. In fact, actually, my friend, my longtime best friend, he's super into Fallout, and he watched it before we did. He absolutely loved it. I was supposed to say the graphics, the like set design and costumes and the makeup and the visual effects were great. I don't really honestly have too many complaints with that.
I second that.
Yeah. In fact, we didn't expect how I really didn't expect like how gory it was going to be. When like all of a sudden you see the first bit and you're like, oh, okay, we're doing that now. All right, got it.
What I will say about the first bit was it was painfully obvious it was going to happen.
Right, yeah.
Like the minute it started to happen, you were like, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't honestly like, even though I've watched it and I like it, I don't have too much to say about it just because like it is good. And I'm just waiting for the second season because I wanted this story to continue. And I want them to see the other experiments and the other vaults, especially the weird ones. Like I want to do all of it. Like show me them.
One of the things I really liked about the show and like something that I feel like I'm going to clear up on the podcast because I was definitely led astray with this was there was a lot of rumors going around that because the show was coming out, it made New Vegas non-canon. And that's just simply not true. I mean, so many people were tweeting and going to TikTok about how like the show is making New Vegas non-canon. blah, 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 blah. And it made me not want to watch the show because New Vegas, I know, controversial thing here. New Vegas is my favorite Fallout game. I've played that at least 25 times.
I feel like a lot of people would agree with you. Like most
Yeah.
people agree, like, hey, Fallout New Vegas is like the one to play.
And it's not even because like the mechanics are great or the story is great or any of it's great. It's not even that. It's just New Vegas is the Fallout game that a lot of people started with.
Mhm.
Like it got them into Fallout. So it's always going to be like that nostalgic, that's my favorite. And then in the show, it didn't show much New Vegas stuff, like the Republic
New
and
California
Yeah.
Republic.
New California Republic, and um they did show like the Enclave, which was really cool.
Yeah, which
but-
even in the video games they barely go over anyway as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the one thing, like I knew of the Enclave, I don't really know much about it.
But for the people that haven't watched this, if you want to mute me or whatever, that's fine. But at the end there, and I might be wrong, but I wanted to ask this, like I wanted to open a discussion about this because this is exciting to me and I want to know if people saw what I saw. But at the very last episode, when it kind of like zooms into like the landscape of where they're going, did that not look like New Vegas to you?
That's 100% New Vegas.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't
The
say
Enclave
where it is.
actually comes from Fallout 3, by the way. That was the main antagonist for 3.
Well, they talked briefly about the Enclave in New Vegas, which is where I know it from. And I've played 3 many times as well, so that, but it doesn't say where it is or anything, but if you like put the setting for the game and the setting that the show showed you, it looks like they're heading into New Vegas, like the Strip.
Well, not only that, but I want to bring this to a point too, because I watched 3/4 of it. I didn't watch the beginning. Panda, could you explain where I came in on the series? Puff, puff.
Okay. Pokey, I started watching it late at night when Pokey was sleeping, as I do, because he works and I don't. So I usually do my own things at night. And he came in right after the ghoul, I forget his name already. The ghoul captures our vault dweller that's out in the wasteland now.
Lucy.
Yeah. I'm bad with names. I'm telling you guys.
Oh, you're fine. And also so the ghoul, the actual ghoul itself, they just call him the ghoul, but the slight spoilers, I guess. But I mean, they kind of show it in the commercials anyway. The actor Walter Goggins, when he was in like pre Fallout, it's Cooper Howard.
Nah, that's who it was.
And I love how he also did he was the model for the thumbs up Fallout guy. I was like, that's beautiful.
Wait, like for real? Like the real model? Or
No,
Well, like-
just for the show.
oh, just for
So-
the show. Okay.
So in the
Yeah.
shows and games, like you see that thumbs up blonde haired guy all over the place.
Yeah, I know he's from Fallout. I've never played a Fallout game, but I know he is from Fallout. So
Well, in the show, pre-war, he was an actor, and he got a gig for the vaults to model for their basically their picture boy, and one of the poses he did was like that, and they chose that one. So I was like, that's cool. We get like a little backstory on the vault guy.
Here's one of the things that I felt was very important and why I think, even without it showing the area, again, spoilers, but I'm like 99.99% sure that's New Vegas because I believe, I could be wrong on this, at some point in the New Vegas game, they make a point to say that New Vegas is the only place with containable power. Like they always have power. They don't have to worry about this thing or that thing to give them power. They just have power all the time. And I believe, if I remember correctly, at some point in the game, someone that you meet along the way says like, yeah, we only got it a couple, so many years back, but it hasn't gone down since we got it. And like that was my clue in of like, oh, like they got power now.
Mr.
That's
House
gotta
preserved
be
the power they have, yeah.
what?
Mr. House preserved the power of the strip, yeah.
Yeah. Which brings up a good question of like, are they going to run into Mr. House? Are they going to run into the courier? Are they, like who's going to pop up and we get to see, which will be very exciting for me.
And like 2% of me, I'm pretty sure this is not the case, but 2% of me makes me think that, again, I don't know names or I'm not trying to spoil too much, that the main quote unquote bad guy at the end, which you'll get there when you get there if you're watching through it, is Mr. House. And that makes me wonder if maybe they make a story to say that they're Mr. House. Yes, it's a stretch, but it would be a way to preserve what they've been trying to preserve. So.
Well, the thing with all of the Fallout games especially is like there's no one big bad guy.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of factions that think they're doing the right thing, and you get to pick like who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, So I think there's going to be a lot of different choices for Lucy of like who she aligns with, what she does, who she tells what. I don't think there's going to be one main bad guy.
Imagine.
Would that mean that she would be like lawfully evil or something? I mean, neutral. I mean, I'm sorry, going back to that.
I think Lucy is very lawfully neutral because
Lawfully
we've seen her straight up murder people.
Yeah, like she
We've
went from
also
like
seen
lawful
her be
good,
like,
she's
"Listen,
slowly
guys,
going down.
we can live in peace," So like she's very like what it demands at the time.
Yeah, like with her, I feel, because like she started as a vault dweller, like that's all she knew, and it was very like, honestly, like uncomfortably happy. That's like to me, that's at least like for what it means, like that whole vault was uncomfortably happy. So and then now she's all of a sudden in this like in the overworld of like, hey, you're not in the vault, you're in the real world now. And it's all just wild, wild west, like kill or be killed, fight to survive, do whatever. And she's this like little innocent girl who's just like, no, we gotta follow the rules. And everyone's like, like go do this thing. And she's slowly being corrupted.
It was the epitome of throwing a toddler onto a warfield, like a battlefield in a war.
Mm-hmm.
Like she had no idea, like her brain was all puppies and kittens, and all of a sudden she has to kill people, and she's like, what's happening? She doesn't understand that like you can't just talk to people out here. If you could, the Fallout games would be a lot more boring.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense getting down to it because you gotta have that the gray areas. So it makes sense because nothing is black and white, and that's boring when it is. So it's nice having the gray areas so you can do a little dabbling there, here and there. If you want to just do a bit of money for the evil, then have at it. As long as you're not hurting real people. So
I definitely fell into the like, I know there's a lot of people that have a crush on the ghoul guy.
Yeah.
And I definitely fell into that. I definitely, like, not at first. I was like, he's okay. But as someone that romances Hancock every time I play Fallout 4, he grew on me.
Hancock is the obvious choice for companion.
Now, if you could romance Nick, Hancock would just have to deal.
Nick Valentine?
Yes. If
Hell.
you could, the first time I played Fallout 4, I did nothing but travel with him. I did nothing but, do everything he liked, made sure he liked me so much. And like, when I got to his like most affection, like thing, he's like, I'm not going to be with you. I'm a robot. And I'm like, damn it.
Why does it sound like a choice I would make in a game?
Time and energy.
Oh, I have another question about the series. So I know what Doc was saying earlier. It's like the series is just taking place in the world of the fall, set like where the Fallout games will be taking place. Like y'all pretty much said, the New Vegas thing. Dude, it's always a New Vegas. I mean, I don't know the game, so I couldn't say one way or the other. So how far off is the show from the game? Even though you're saying like it's taking place in the game, there are things that's happening in the show that did not happen in the games. Like if you were to because like I said, it's not all
Same world, different story.
Huh?
Same world, different story. So, as compared to the games.
I feel like there was a lot of good comparisons though. Like the stim packs, for example.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Like they could have made it so like it stitches up your wounds, like something mystical like that or something. But instead it just keeps you alive.
Yeah.
And basically that's what stim packs do, is they just keep you alive until you can get picked up. And that's just one of the examples of like, I think they really tried to keep true to the games.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated that. Like the first time I saw her use a stim pack, I was like, oh yeah, like that's the good stuff.
And I did see that the people who made the TV series, they actually played through most of the games and are like huge fans of the games, and they didn't want to mess with that. So
that's a good sign right there, because I've heard you got like some series where the people make the movies or TV shows based around a certain series, but it's obvious that maybe they saw the cover or maybe like an intro and then it made the show, and the show was like completely off, or the movies were completely off. Resident Evil, the movies were just completely just like off like that, so I'm glad to hear that they actually played the games and they can apply some stuff from the games to the show, just their own original story to it. So I think that's it.
I don't know if Titus feels the same way, but I loved how they added in kind of like an explanation of how ghouls turn into feral ghouls. I'm not sure if that's like true to the game, because we never really get a definitive answer. But the fact that like there's a serum that if they don't take it, they'll slowly go insane and become feral.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that makes the games a little more interesting now.
Yeah, so with the game, like I'm not, and granted, even with Fallout 4, I haven't played a whole lot of it. I honestly haven't even beat the campaign. I would just go off and do side quests. But as far as I'm aware, they haven't really explained like, well, why are there feral ghouls and then there's ghouls who are just, like everyone else, and they're just living around like in the city. So I do like the idea of like, hey, they kind of flesh that out like a bit of saying like, hey, they need to take this certain medicine, and if they don't, that's when they go feral, and then they're basically become the zombie.
As someone that's played through 3 New Vegas and 4 multiple times, like completed all the side missions and the campaigns and everything, the most that they ever touch on it is being like, yeah, it happens to some ghouls sometimes, if they're ghouled long enough.
Right.
Like,
I think the closest one to explaining that before the show was the Ghouls by Tenpenny Tower in Fallout 3, where they kind of like explain that the feral ghouls can live with the regular ghouls, and they kind of sort of touch on it a little. They're like, well, these are my brethren. They don't really say like how they became feral.
The thing that I liked about that the most is like you said, they're like, oh, the feral ghouls can live with the ghouls. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to kill them. And then like if you travel with Hancock in Fallout 4, the ghouls, it's on site. The feral ghouls, it's on site. Like they don't care that he's a ghoul. So I don't know. I just feel like it definitely answered one of the questions that I didn't even know I had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the show was great. In fact, actually going back to the stim pack, and I'm not sure if you had picked it up as well. Well, even just stim pack, but even just like some things in the show in general, that I swear they had used the same exact audio file from the video game.
They did.
Yeah. So like with the
stim, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, like the stim pack, and I could hear like the slight hissing noise. I'm like, that is the same file. I swear to God.
That.
Yeah, like that is great. One thing I kind of wish that they did, and I'm sure they did it for budgeting reasons, was I kind of wish they showed more of the radiated animals because like we saw the Brahmin briefly. The only one that we really saw like a whole lot of detail of was the Gulper, which even then I didn't even know was a thing. So I don't even know if that was a thing for the show or if it was in other Fallout games.
Uh, I
It's in
don't
Far
remember.
Harbor.
I don't remember seeing gulpers
It's in
other
Far
than
Harbor.
Far Harbor in Fallout 4. I know that there was going to be a lot more water creatures, like in the water, you dive down and there would be monsters in the water, but then they
Mhm.
scrapped that halfway through and didn't put it in the game.
Right. Yeah.
But
So like, yeah, that's one thing. I was just like, kind of wanted to see more. Like I was like, and I also didn't think they were gonna do it, but it'd been cool if like, oh, we could see a Deathclaw. And we didn't,
And
but I was like, you know what? That's fine. Like it makes sense. They'll probably do it for a second season, which they are confirmed. They are doing a second season.
we did see a Yao Guai,
Yeah,
which was
the
surprising
Yagua
to
as well.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
But the fact that the only thing we
I
saw
like
for as a
so
Deathclaw
I've
was
only seen the first episode, but
the fact that the only
I'm
thing we
sorry,
see
there's
as far as
some lag.
Deathclaw goes as like him stepping on his Deathclaw skull.
Yeah.
I was
That was the
very
one thing I was like,
disappointed.
oh,
I wanted to see like these big monsters with, the big
yeah,
horns and
yeah.
the claws.
Let me hear it roar.
Yeah, typical Fallout like fear. Like
Hmm.
see it in them.
Yeah, and of course, and then like soundtrack was great. Like I honestly, like I made a playlist on my phone. I was like, I just labeled Fallout, and I just took like some songs from there. I'm just gonna add this.
I think my favorite part, and this is gonna sound silly, but I think my favorite part of the show so far was the Brotherhood knight in like the full power armor,
Hmm.
just full on going, no, 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 and just sprinting away from the
Right.
Yao.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that's hilarious because I've killed those with no power armor.
Right. Yeah, and like even way with like they can
I've
still
only
be
seen the first
like,
episode myself, but the first episode has a scene where they show you the Pride wind coming in, and I was just like, yes,
Yes.
the Pride wind.
I always end up actually I'll keep that for when we discuss the video game.
one last thing for this is just like well, two last things. And the sad thing about where I think season 2 is going to lead us is I think we're going to be even more pushed away from the wilderness, which means there's even less of a chance of seeing those cool creatures or even new creatures that we've never seen before, and that's kind of disappointing to me too. Is like I didn't get to see a whole bunch of them either, so
I think if we don't get a Deathclaw in this next season, people are just gonna riot.
I think we'll get a
Right.
Deathclaw, but I think that's it. Like we won't get
I
any
want
other
a
ones.
full scene with a Deathclaw. I don't want like they see one in the distance and like avoid it. Like I want
Yeah.
a scene where a Deathclaw is destroying everything.
yeah.
And,
I
you
want to see it rip a person in half.
Wow.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
What rating is the show? Is it teen or is it R?
I feel like it has to be R. I feel like
I think it's either R or MA.
if it's R, it's wrong. I
It
feel
better
like.
be at least MA. Because like if it's MA, then we can actually see a person get ripped in half. If it's teen, we can't.
It's not teen. They literally showed
No.
this cool guy cutting off her finger and
That's true.
another lady getting impregnated by gulper babies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So like it's definitely not teen.
Not
What
right.
I thought was really cool about
Jesus.
I know it's very disappointing that we didn't get to see a lot of creatures. I'm with you on that.
Mm.
But what I think is very cool is that what we didn't know, or at least I didn't know from playing the Far Harbor DLC a couple times, is that
PBMA.
inside a gulper's mouth are fingers,
Fingers.
like human fingers
Yeah.
Oh god.
that like pull people into the stomach. That was so creepy. I was thrown through a loop. I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But it's a mature TVMA.
Okay. Speaking of Far Harbor, we're just going to transition into the easiest transition here. But before we do, For the people who have watched it, Squish, if you want to rate it, you can. But for the people who have watched all of it, and maybe Drew, if you want to as well, give it a rating. What would you rate it? I personally, I'm going to give it an 8.5, leaning towards a 9. Like, I haven't watched the first couple of episodes, but like that, like a lot of people, there's a lot of people who make things based off of something else, Avatar, and they're terrible. They're absolutely a disgrace to whoever made the original thing, and they just need to be uppercutted into space, and I want to watch them suffocate.
I have to
So-
say,
But this
So-
was amazing.
I have to say that I love that when people make a movie out of something and it's horrible, our go-to insult is like Avatar.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we're going to talk about that next time.
I will talk about that shit. I freaking
Avatar,
hate
yeah.
when people go, what do they name?
There's no way that we can't.
What do they name? Ong or something?
Ong.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
Ong.
drives me nuts.
Yeah. I was.
Ah.
There's so many things that were in the show that were like solid in the show. Like this needs to happen for this to this and this and this. For example, Aang flying without using the sphere or his staff or anything. Him just floating
Doing
where
it.
the fuck he wants. That wasn't in the show. That wasn't possible. That's all I
I
need
watched
to
the
see.
show, but even I know that.
That's all I needed to see.
I weirdly kind of want to watch the movie again just because it's been so long that I feel like I need a refresher.
I remember.
A refresher on how horrible it is.
Here's my brief feelings about that movie. I think it would have been good if they named it something else. Like if that movie was something else entirely, and they named it the elemental movie about people who use their powers, like waterbending and shit, and they didn't name it
That's a long
Avatar.
title.
It would have been good. It would have been a box office hit. But because they
The
claim
elements of the Avatar.
yeah, like they put the name on it saying, "Oh, it's based off of this," and I went, "No, it's not."
Yeah,
Did
no,
you
it's
even
not.
watch a single episode? In the first 5 minutes, they say Aang, and why are you naming your character Ong?
It's
Yeah,
Ong.
Well, there's so many movies.
I've never seen the show, and even I know that.
Yeah.
So many movies that if you separated it from the franchise, it would have had so much more appeal to people. For example, the It series. For anyone that's watched both the old It movies
Mhm.
and the new ones, there was so much hate for the new ones because they changed so much. It was all so different, you know. And what I had to tell people was watch the new ones as if they are completely separate worlds, completely separate universe from the old ones. You'll like it then. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But
Which
I-
is yeah.
The Shining is another example of that because there are people that really like the movie, but they hated the miniseries.
Oh yeah.
And I personally, when I watched the miniseries when it was originally out, I personally liked it okay. But other people was like, oh, it's terrible. It's not right. It's not cool like the movie. I said, well, the movie is like really a little bit off from the book. The miniseries stuck closer to it. So, but if you view them as two separate things, 'cause I like both. I mean, Shining is still one of my favorite movies. But, you know, but just view it as two separate things and you're fine.
Yeah.
I just feel like
Avatar, I'm sorry, just had no excuse. But
Yeah.
I feel like the Avatar show, the It movies, you know, the Saw franchise, they just need to like stop trying to latch on and make it new because nobody wants that.
Yeah. I'll take what was that series that came after Avatar? The Legend of Korra was
Legend of
all right.
Legend of
Korra.
Legend of Korra was all right.
Legends of Korra was good.
And I want a third series. I'll accept that. But no more movies, no more spin-offs, no more. I'll take another series.
Well,
but
they
none of
already
the
tried
spin-offs
to
will
like
hold it.
refix their live action movie, and like, that's
Yeah.
for another podcast.
Yeah.
In another podcast, I'll be talking about how I despise each and every Disney real life movie.
So same podcast then.
Yeah.
I'll
But,
join in on that one.
let's go ahead and continue this. We're gonna let's
again.
give it a rating. I gave my rating. What do you guys rate the Fallout TV series? I had an 8.5 landing on a 9.
Honestly, I was kind of leaning more to like about the same. I was gonna say like 8 or 9, like around there. Like it's
So,
good. I wish there was
only-
more, but yeah.
So I've only seen the first episode, so don't kill me in the comments, guys.
Oh,
but,
they
like,
will.
6 out of 10. 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
I've only seen the first episode. Don't find me and shoot me.
You're gonna get crucified.
Yeah.
No,
I know.
I think I'm gonna go with a solid 9.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm 8.59. I think I haven't watched the first couple episodes. Like I missed the stim pack thing. The first episode I watched was whenever they were in that train station right after Bo attacks that one dude in the power armor.
Max.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's not his name in that show. I don't remember his name in that show.
Maximus gets left in the power armor without the
Yeah,
power.
that's the
core.
first episode. Everything before that I missed.
Thaddeus.
But yeah.
Him turning into a ghoul though, from taking
Oh
that
yeah, that was
medicine. That
that's
was-
a spoiler, but
That was wild.
All right, so now we're going to transition into the easiest one, and you might as well just stay there because you've played it more than I have, and then we can switch seats after this one. Fallout 4.
yeah.
This is why I said I was saving stuff. Like I was gonna say stuff, but I was like, I'll just save it because literally the next topic is Fallout 4.
The thing where yeah. Which actually, by the way, I kind of want to take slight credit for because when we were like coming up with topics, and he was like, "Oh, okay, cool. For sure, we're gonna talk about Fallout 4." Actually, no. I think it was like, hey, we're games. We're gonna talk about Fallout 4, and so I brought up the fact of like, why don't we for the TV show? Why don't we just do the show as well? Because that'll tie in
I
really
actually
well.
told
And it's
him
like,
the same thing.
Yeah,
yeah, I was like,
I
that has
actually-
to be like, it has to go together.
I had no idea you told him that.
Oh yeah.
I was playing Fallout 4 at the time. Like
Yeah.
literally when he asked me, I was playing Fallout 4 and I was like, oh, for a game, why don't we do Fallout 4?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, what do you want to do for a show? And I was like,
Fallout.
Fallout show? I mean, it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, you both said the Fallout TV show the same day.
I know much
Well,
more about the games than the
Titus and Katra, strike again.
Basically, yeah.
speaking of which, Panda, you know how to do the introduction, so I'm going to bring it up to
Oh.
here.
Okay.
Fallout 4.
So we're doing Fallout 4. This is set up a little differently. Give me a second. The developer is obviously Bethesda. Everyone knows that.
Who?
Bethesda. Come on
Oh,
now.
but that's, yeah.
Oh, you're
Maryland?
with me.
Where's Obsidian, man? No, I'm just playing.
Obsidian wasn't a part of Fallout 4. I was surprised. A little surprised. A little.
Speaking of Obsidian,
Yeah,
just
they
quick
did
side note.
New Vegas.
Obsidian is the one that made New Vegas,
Yep.
and they just gave the new Fallout game
And
because
3.
the new Fallout game is going to Obsidian.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm
So-
excited. I am
Nice.
super.
That's gonna be awesome.
But anyways, back to what
Bethesda's
so
a good company. I like their games, but
Fallout 4, in my opinion, goes between my first favorite and my second favorite in the series. Currently, it's my first favorite, but New Vegas fights with it a lot, in my opinion.
And I fight with him a lot because he keeps taking New Vegas out of first spot.
New Vegas is amazing, but New Vegas doesn't have the things that Fallout 4 has. Like, some people will get annoyed by the settlements, and I get annoyed by, hey, there's a new settlement that needs your help. I get annoyed by that too. But I like the having to create the settlement areas. I know some people don't like that, but that's one of my favorite things of Fallout.
I hate that.
That's one of my favorite things in the Fallout 4 games is getting to like build a settlement. Like you get to make the houses, make the buildings, make the furniture, make, you know.
But if
You
I
guys-
want that, I'm
I
gonna
think those
buy
guys
a
are falling
building
asleep
thing.
up there.
Yeah, it's been a long day for us here.
Yeah, we woke up so early too.
Titus, how much have you played Fallout 4?
I played a decent bit. I haven't gotten to any of the DLCs.
All the DLCs are where it's at, man.
Yeah.
But as far as like gaming, the gameplay, yeah, I wasn't initially when they announced Fallout 4, I liked the idea of like, oh, you could build your own settlements and practice. I barely touch it at all, if any. Like really, the only time I really ever do touch it is if I'm like, all right, I want to get rid of this I want to get rid of like this trash pile, and get rid of all of that. The only settlement I really go to is Red Rocket. Honestly,
Oh, yes.
like that's the only one I really ever go to because it already had like most of the stuff that I needed to upgrade my stuff anyway, and I don't really need a whole lot of storage space anyway. So I was just like, whatever.
The first
This is
time
fine.
I played, I was so much more invested in the storyline than I was like building settlements. So I would just go to each settlement. I would put enough water, enough food, and enough defenses down. And that was it. And then I would just leave. And if they got attacked or whatever, they had to deal with that on their own.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I was busy, burning down the Institute and, destroying the Pridwin.
Like as soon as like you meet up with like Preston Garvey and you said I'm like, hey, there's this place called Sanctuary over here. It's like, cool, great, and they go over, and I'm like, all right, bye, and I barely ever go see them again.
I can definitely tell there's two of us that really like the settlement building and two people that don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love the settlement building, and that game, that one and New Vegas are the only two that I've completed the main storyline of at least once, if not multiple times.
You haven't completed the storyline for 4.
Yeah. 4 I have.
You've completed all the storylines.
Not all of them. I usually go say hi to Dad, agree to make him happy, and then that's about it.
To Dad.
To son.
To son.
Father, whatever
you
his
go.
name is. Yeah. I go to father and say, you're my son. How could I tell you no?
I kill him every time. Every time.
So
I've played through every different way that you can. Like I've done the Railroad, the Institute, the Brotherhood. For some reason, the Brotherhood always seems the most complete because they even go to one of the DLC areas and just nuke it. And it's like, well, I guess that population's dead too.
Well,
Probably my least favorite of the way the factions end, but
the thing with the Institute is like I've always wanted to try siding with your son, right? But I mean, he catches a bullet in the face every time he calls your spouse, what was the words he used?
I don't know the words he used because I don't have a spouse in that game. I don't do the relationship.
Basically like
I wish I could help. I never get to that point.
consequences of war or something. I don't know. Like he's like, oh yeah, it had to happen for me to get here. So who cares? And
that part.
I'm like, that is your father.
Or that is your mother.
It's your mother.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
He's like, oh, they got shot in the face. I know. Okay, well, why do you still have their killer working for you? He's effective.
Because he's a good shot.
He's effective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what else is effective? I can't. You know what? It's very much like that one guy who's I've never watched this show. I'm not familiar with the characters, but that one guy that's beating the piss out of his son and going, "What's 17 more years?" I can make it start again.
Invincible, yeah.
I'm very much that. I'm like, yeah, I can make a new child with my bow Hancock. So,
With my bow Hancock.
One of the funniest things about Fallout 4, I love this so much. It makes me laugh is it doesn't make me laugh in a mean way, but like it's like a very like, why did they do this? Is if you make your like I always make my character Caucasian. And the dad or the mom is typically Caucasian. And you walk into the bedroom and there's a black baby in there. And it's like,
Wait a minute.
okay,
All right, who cheated?
Yeah.
who cheated? Whose baby are you, really?
Whose goddamn white baby is that?
Exactly.
It's your baby.
Black
He was light
Jesus,
skinned.
man.
That one might be mine.
Now I need to take a clip of that and put that dialogue over it. We could post it. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Just because you name him Darren don't mean he belonged to Darren. It's such
Going
a
back
good bit.
to follow up for one of my favorite parts of the entire game. Some people know I like to like collect things in games. I'm very much a collector type gamer. And when they were like, hey, there's going to be these 30 flavors of Nuka-Cola that you can get from the amusement park one, I'm like, what? And it's like, yeah, you can collect these recipes and make these. And there's like 30 of them. And then you can mix and match the flavors. I'm like, yes, I needed this in my life.
Pokey is big on like every bottle of Nuka-Cola he finds, he has to bring it home. I've seen him have a house
Yes,
where you walk
same.
in and there's just Nuka-Cola piled on the floor.
It's just all Nuka-Cola in one house. Yeah.
I'll have cabinets upon cabinets upon cabinets full, like, because I'll display them too. So I'll put a cabinet down and then I'll just
I always
fill it
want
with
to
Nuka-Cola.
display, I'll display like one of each flavor on a shelf.
She see me put like I'll come home with like hundreds of Nuka-Cola bottles, and she's like, "Why are you over encumbered? Like, why are you walking home because you're not refusing to fast travel?" I'm like, "I got Nuka-Cola, I can't drop them, so I'll slow walk the whole way home, and then meticulously place 100 bottles of Nuka-Cola on the shelves."
For me, it's the star items. Like,
yeah.
if I see a star item in a shopkeep that, like, it's worse than my weapon, you know, I'll never use it. I'll still buy it
Mm-hmm.
because
Same.
I just want to have it. Like,
I need the legendary weapon. Yeah.
the legendary
If it's
weapon,
named,
armor,
I have to
anything.
have it.
Mhm.
If it's got a star on it and a
If
weird
it's named, I gotta have it. Even that Rockville Slugger or whatever it is. Yeah.
The baseball bat?
Although, you know what? I take it back. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to have a star on it. It doesn't have to have a star on it as long as it's got a different name than in like baseball bat. I'll take
Right.
it home. I have like a
Yeah.
whole toolbox
Pipe revolver
sitting
pistol.
by the workbench that's just full of stuff that's named different things.
I built one of those magazine racks in Sanctuary because that's what I was using for like a base, and I just started stacking magazines, and I played the game so long that it would respawn some of the magazines that I've already collected. So like 3 editions, brought back the Berry number 2.
Alrighty. At this point, like I said, it's already like getting pretty late, so I want to keep the train rolling. So to finish off
There
this,
is one more funny thing that I've been wanting to talk about, but I was waiting for a break. I only, except for when I'm romancing people, I only travel with dog meat, and I think you guys know why. It's because anytime you pick up a piece of junk that you plan to scrap for your settlement or whatever, because you need supplies, it's, why are you taking that? Why do you need that junk? What, are we just
Yeah.
collecting trash now? And it's like, I want to shoot you
Meanwhile, the
in the
dog
face.
just looks at you and
Yeah.
wags.
Yeah, dog meat, no judgment. No judgment. I can pick up 30 brooms and dog meat will be like, okay, I'm just happy to be here.
I'm just
Well,
happy to be here.
Yeah. I mean, granted, there are times when you get the notifications like, hey, dog meat found some. You're like, cool, great, what is it? Mine.
I've never had that happen. Does that happen?
Yeah.
Does he
Yeah.
bring you the money?
No, he brings you to it, and he's like, oh, hey, and you're like,
No, it'll
yeah,
be in
by the
its
time you notice.
inventory.
He just has an active mine in his backpack that he has.
He'll just walk over. I'm like, oh crap, there's a mine, and then by the
It'll
time you realize
explode,
it, it's
yeah.
already gone.
I have the perfect solution for mines. Ready?
That's
run over them and then just keep sprinting. Because by the time they go off, you're already out of its range of
right.
reach.
Doug, we found something. Boom.
Most of the time for me, it's like hard hats and
Right. Yeah, like random items.
like random junk items that I'll never use. But I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good
I mean, yeah, girl, occasionally that
Found a
does happen,
rock.
but it's every once in a while. You're like, oh, cool, you found a cap's mine. Great. I'm like dead. Or
Caps
heavily
are no
damaged.
joke.
Yeah.
Because they don't give you a warning or anything. They just go.
Yeah. Like why are you wasting money?
Someone's really rich around the wastelands and just setting out these mines full of cabs because they know that they do unreasonable amount of damage.
Yeah. It was shrapnel.
Shrapnel bomb.
It's like modern day with those bombs with like the nails and screws and stuff in it.
Basically.
Right.
All right, are we moving on?
So moving on. Before we move on, everybody that has played it, rate Fallout 4.
9.5.
I'm gonna give it
As a game or in comparison to the other Fallouts?
Mm.
both.
As an independent game.
I give it
As an
8.5.
independent game, I'd say an 8.5 for an independent game. As per the other Fallout games, maybe a 6.
Ooh. But I do know that's your least favorite, so we're pretty close to it.
I haven't played the whole way through. Honestly, I'm probably gonna say 7, maybe 7.5. Because there were definitely things in that game that could have been fixed, which I know when they did the update, because when the show came out, they're like, hey, we're gonna update things. They smoothed out some of that stuff.
I'm
But even-
crippling my rating. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
but like,
continue. But
there you go, yeah. But like even when I first started playing the game, and even like after like years of playing it, or even if I like years later after not playing it and then got back into it, I realized that there were just some mechanics I didn't like. Like honestly, as far as like shooting goes, I prefer using the VAT system. Not because like, oh, it's just easier. I mean, actually no, it basically is because it makes it easier to hit. Because I could be aiming at someone and the crosshairs on the person and I shoot and it's like, nah, it didn't hit. You're like, great. Like I'm aiming at dead center of their chest. Why are they not dead? So like the shooting part of it, it's just like it could be like I honestly preferred Skyrim bow and arrow than Fallout 4 shooting.
really,
Yeah.
really,
Is Skyrim still a thing?
Oh,
Say
yeah.
again?
Yeah.
No, wow. I remember it back in the early 2010s or something. Everybody was playing Skyrim and also, like you said, Fallout New Vegas. I remember, I'm like, wow, that's still around now.
I've played Skyrim over 100 times and I refuse to stop.
Yeah, like I will stop playing occasionally and then
Same.
I'll get back into it. I get burnt out.
Same.
But yeah, but I always and it's always like, okay, cool, like this time I'm gonna be sword and shield or I'm gonna be a heavy two-handed, and then like 5 seconds or like maybe 5 hours later you're like stealth archer.
Yes.
I- I'm going to have to bring my rating from a 9.5 to a 9 because with the update, I don't know if anyone else has caught on to this if they've played since, but with the update, the big update that they did, they erased your saves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I had just started playing again. I've been playing for like 2 weeks and I was really far in the campaign and I actually decided to put real work into my settlements, you know. I was like, this is going to be the one where I 100% it. And then the day after the update, I went to log in and it was just gone. Everything was gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like that was
there when it
so
happened for me.
dirty. Like, but all right, am I switching with you again?
Yep.
Fluff butt.
Puff butt.
Your hair is so fluffy today.
Fluffy.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can deal with like your mustache hair in your mouth. because it annoys the shit out of me.
It's so gross. It's so gross. Because he'll suck on it. He'll go,
I always have to trim the edges of mine.
Yeah, like mine's already kind of getting to that point where it's touching my lip. I'm like, I need to trim it down.
he sucks on it. It's gross.
Yeah, it's no fun.
Now that
Yeah.
I've talked shit, I'm leaving.
All righty. Next topic of awesomeness. We're about done, everybody. Got a few more to go, but we're about done.
Wake up.
Let's
I don't
see.
have to go to work.
I'm sweaty and miserable.
Good. And now the podcast knows that too.
Good. See what I sacrificed?
See where I sacrificed. But no, I think we only have one more topic. That one's the... Oh, before we switch to other topics, I do want to put this in here at the very end, even though we forgot about it. For Flashpoint Fire Rescue, Panda, I, and Squish will rate it real quick. I rate it a 7.5 because we forgot to do that.
7.
7. Squish, what about you?
7.5.
7.5.
Seven
Yeah,
and
it's
a
really
half.
good. I
Yeah.
think I rate, like, I keep saying that that's better, but I think I actually rate Pandemic an 8. But I haven't played it in a while, so... Let me see here. I think there's only one more topic. We did board games. We did video games. We did comics. We didn't do that. We did Pokemon.
How long do you want Modern Horizons to be? Because I could go for hours.
Brief. Like, we just want an overall what you think
Because-
about Modern Horizons, maybe a standout card or two, etc. Like, well, about as long as the other subjects have been. They've been about anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes because the people that are going to be doing the recording are falling asleep up there. No, you know what I mean? Like, I could tell you guys had a long day, so we don't want to make it drag too long. So
We need to bring them in on more segments for the next podcast. Like, we need to have more segments where they're involved.
Disney.
You know.
alrighty. So
So Modern Horizons 3.
yes, bring up. So So first, before we even talk about Modern Horizons, Squish is gonna mostly take over this one, but this is Magic the Gathering. I know
Oh,
Droopy mentioned
who's that?
Magic the Gathering. This is Magic the Gathering. This is the new set coming out. There's a type of way you play Magic called Modern. It's a, either Standard, Modern, Commander, etc. It is Modern. They want to bring new cards to that to like liven up Modern. So go with that knowledge, Squish, go ahead. You're going to take the lead on this one. And then when you're done, we're going to have one last subject, which is going to be very brief and we'll include everybody, but go ahead.
All right. So Modern Horizons 3, like I said, I could go for hours. I've looked at almost all the spoilers in depth, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to touch on each thing that I think is important a little bit and then move on. So first I'm going to start with the lore. So I think that what Magic has done with the lore is not so great, because they brought back something from the past and marketed it as new. They've done this before. They brought stuff back before and marketed as new. But the difference with this is they're marketing it to people who have never touched the series ever as a brand new world, brand new concept. Like if you go to their story webpage, they have a section for Modern Horizons 3, which is the entire storyline block from 2016 to 2018, marketed as a new story. But it's not. It's something we've already known. The second part that I have about the lore is retcon some things. They've changed things. There's a new card that is Olamog and Kozilek fused together. I don't like it, not because it's not a cool card. I like a cool card. What I don't like is that never happened. That never happened in the Ozzy timeline from 2016 to 2018 that they're saying that this is from. They're just like, well, they've used it at some point. And it's like, where? Where? That never happened. But moving on from that, I like that bringing back Modern Horizons as a whole. Modern Horizons 2 was amazing. Modern Horizons 1 was amazing. They have a set that's going slightly too modern, so they can bring in more powerhouse-based things. The way they design cards is normally a throwback to cards that already exist that are really good. For example, like there's a new version of Termagoyf. There's a new version of Red Elemental Blast. There's a new card for each of the Titans. It's wonderful that they pay homage to the older versions that everybody has enjoyed. And one of the cards that I want to touch on, going away from the lore and more into the card game, Kappa Cannoneer is extremely busted in a good way. So I believe it's something like 4 in a blue or 5 in a blue, and says that it costs, you can tap artifacts to play it for a cheaper cost. But when you do that, it also increases the power of the creature itself. We've seen this before in green and red, but this is a blue card with Ward 4. And the Ward 4 is very protective for the card because you have to pay 4 extra mana to target it. With that said, this is normally a 1 mana blue creature that's a 9/9. That is extremely strong for the format. I think we're going to get it in a lot of places because most times it's going to be a 9/9 with Ward 4 in blue, which is normally only seen in green, you know. Another I want to go back to cards a little bit more. I think the Titans are amazing because they brought in a couple new Titans. They brought a little bit of the old Titans. They have a new Emrakul that's based on Madness now. You guys will definitely want to check out some of those cards. But what I find interesting is a lot of the cards are powered down versions or newer versions of older cards. Like you'll find like your Asceticism in a new format. You'll find your Red Elemental Blast as Null Elemental Blast. You'll see Termagoyf as Nergoyf. You'll see Winter Moon as Winter Orb. You know, I think that's
Winter
cool.
Moon is a little terrifying, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
We don't need another one of those, but okay.
Well, this one's powered down, which I think is what makes it better, is if we can get the fan base away from the overpowered Winter Orb and into this new Winter Moon, it would be much better. I just don't see people doing it. You know?
I think people will.
Why would you?
Modern, but
there's even a new Necropotence. I don't remember what the new Necropotence is called, but
since we're talking about this, how much do you think it'll affect Commander?
So a lot of people will call it like Commander Horizons because of how it's built and formatted. Everybody's kind of a little upset that it is a modern Horizons set, but it seems more geared towards Commander. I disagree. I have seen WotC make sets for Commander and drop hundreds of legendary creatures, hundreds of them into a set. This doesn't feel quite as scummy as that did. I can see a lot of cards changing the EDH format. Like a lot of them will be altering what everybody knows is good in the format. It's going to change tier 1 decks. It's going to change tier 2 decks. I can see it changing a lot of things. I don't think it was built for EDH. I think it will just have a lot of impact on that.
Although I will say that new Emrakul is looking a little spicy for Commander if they're putting that in there. Especially if you find out a way to cast it at blast speed. That's going to be insane.
Yep. Well, did you see the new green card where you can flash in anything with mana value 3 or less if you have energy?
Yep.
Yeah, that's some spicy. It's like pay the energy. You can now cast this thing without paying mana, and it's got flash speed. That's pretty busted, but that's the glories of modern.
Yeah.
In modern, you can do spicier shit, you know? I wish they would make like a legacy master. I would love to see something like that, you know? Like have a whole set for specifically legacy and make it only legal in legacy. That way you can make as busted of a card as you want, you know?
Is there what's one card that you're the most excited for, or that you're particularly watching to see
Kappa
how good it
Cannoneer.
might be?
Kappa Cannoneer, that 1 mana 9/9 in blue with Ward 4 that I was telling you about. He comes in kind of small, but you're going to play him in something like Urza anyway. And when he's played in Urza, how hard is it to get a Soul Ring and a couple of artifacts, right? Like, he's going to be a 1 mana 9/9 in blue almost all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also the new Necropotence. I think that's really good because the old Necropotence is also very good. And that green card that gives things flash speed for energy. Now I can see that building its whole archetype just from that alone. Because if you can find a way to get consistent energy, you can just flash anything out that's three or less mana for free. So just build a deck around 3 or less CMC with energy, and dump your whole deck on the board.
Yeah. Honestly, this is gonna sound stupid, but I'm keeping an eye on White of the Reliquary.
Yeah.
Green,
White
2/2.
of Precinct 6 and Knight of the Reliquary put together.
Black, green, 2/2 with Vigilance. Gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And then you can tap it, sacrifice any creature, and then search your library for any land. Not just a basic, any land, and put it on the battlefield.
We just had that Desert Bloom set that was based on destroying your lands and getting them from the deck and like land shenanigans. So it's going to go well in that. Not to mention that it's going to go good in any graveyard deck because White of Precinct 6 was amazing when it came out. Knight of the Reliquary was great when it came out. This is literally the two put together.
Basically. Which that's a whole nother discussion which we might get into next time of too much text on cards, due to,
yes. It is not new person friendly at all anymore. Like if I'm sitting here and I'm talking to my buddy Mark over here and I'm like, hey Mark, you want to play a game of Magic? And I just hand him a piece of cardboard that's got like lines and lines and lines of text. That's going to be a lot for new people,
Yeah.
I can see the eyes start swirling like, oh.
Give me one moment.
Yeah, it's definitely not a new person friendly game anymore.
No.
I wish they would do more to cater to new people as well as retaining old players. Like you can't just say mill 5 cards. People aren't going to know what mill means,
Yeah.
See the question marks above my head.
All right. You know what I'm going to ask from the spoiler season that you've seen? What would you rate Modern Horizons 3 at this point?
Oh my gosh. Out of how good it is?
How good it is for Commander, since we're mostly
How
Commander.
good it is for Commander.
Amanda.
9.5.
I'm going to go much lower. I'm going to go 7.5. I think they're
It's
still
bad?
doing too much. I think the cards will be good. I think it's going to be OP.
I think they're going to... I think what WotC's trying to do is retcon the mistakes of the past they've already made. Winter Orb comes to mind. Necropotence comes to mind. Temple of the False God comes to mind.
I get that, but I don't. Here's the argument that I think a lot of people make is like you can't go back in time. If you make an overpowered card or overpower anything in a video game or whatever, no one's going to pick up the thing that's less power than the most powered thing.
Right.
You know, if they have opportunity to buy the most powered thing, they're going to go for that. They're not going to go back and get the
Right.
thing that's not powered. So if you have the money for it or have the opportunity, I understand what they're trying to do, but I just don't think it's going to work.
I don't think it's gonna work. No.
But Drew, go ahead and turn on your camera because here's what we're going to do. We'll talk more Magic next time for everybody because I know people want to hear more about that too. And I know there's a lot with Modern Horizons. It's getting pretty late for everybody here, so we're going to end it here. So, yep. I'm going to go around the room. I'll end it. So, Titus, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room. Say goodbye, however way you want it. Tell anybody that they can plug you, whether that's Instagram, Twitch, or any other way. And then we'll end it. Titus, we'll start with you. We'll go around the room. We'll go Titus, Drew. That, around it counterclockwise. How about that? So go ahead, Titus.
Later. That's it. I got nothing to plug. Just later.
Come watch this, right?
Yeah.
And Mark Rodriguez here. Going to be working in a couple of hours because I got to wake up early tomorrow morning. But and of course my lovely companion.
Hey guys, see you later. I have nothing to plug, but you can plug his channel.
Yep, we're on Video Game Masters 09 and the Unboxing Zone, and of course once in a while you might even see Poke and Drew there too. So they've made their appearances.
Peace out, Drew from NAJ, baby.
I stream on Twitch at PPandaII, and that's basically my only plug. So bye-bye.
And join us. We're going to try to put this on all audio podcast places, Spotify, all that fun stuff. So if you're listening to us there, we're on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and I stream on Twitch at TTV or Poke Panda TTV. It's pretty easy to find.
The Panda Squad.
The Panda Squad. But yeah, everybody, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Peace.
Later.